Chapter 779. The Desert. Gu Shan was flying in the air, forming hand seals one after another towards the formation plate. From time to time, the formation plate would emit rays of light, turning into streams of light that fell into the vast desert below. After watching for a while, little she couldn't help but say, "We need to hurry up. Quite a few poems of prophecy have already been deciphered, I know," Gu Shan replied. Little she continued, "But that scorpion is very powerful. If it continues to guard the entrance of the labyrinth, with our current strength, we'll probably fall into a fierce battle." "I know," Gu Shan replied. He changed his position and continued to arrange the formation. Little she hurriedly said, "The monsters in the abyss of sin are basically at his level. Some are even stronger than him. Under such a force, no one would be able to enter the labyrinth to retrieve the three divine armaments. I also know that," Gu Shan replied. Little she grabbed his arm and shook it. "Without the divine armaments, you won't be able to become a demigod. You won't be able to seal the monster, and will most likely die here." As his arm was shaken, the formation's arrangement was interrupted. This time, Gu Shan couldn't arrange the formation in peace. He stopped and helplessly said, "I know what you're talking about, so I need to make some preparations first." Seeing his indifferent expression, little she calmed down a bit. "What are you preparing?" she curiously asked. Gu Shan replied, "I'm not sure if the scorpion is really dead, so I'm arranging a method that won't hurt our relationship. I've been thinking for a very long time, what if I run into a situation where I don't want to kill someone? So I came up with this formation. This is a concept that I came up with after studying the art of formation for so long. Formation? I know a bit about it, but I've never seen you arrange a formation like this." Little she scowled. "Time is always changing," Gu Shan replied. He continued arranging the formation and asked, "Little she, you once sealed this monster countless years ago. How did you do it?" Little she recalled for a while and answered, "I just hit it and hit it until it couldn't resist anymore, then sealed it." Gu Shan was speechless. "Do you think you can hit the monster as you please?" he asked. "It used countless giant hands to try and catch me, and unleashed numerous earth-shattering invisible attacks at me," Little Dusk replied. "Invisible attack. I don't know what that is, but it doesn't work on me. However, other people and even divinities seem to be afraid of that invisible attack," Little Dusk replied. Gu Shan said thoughtfully, "It seems that you have some kind of special power that allows you to not be affected by the monster's invisible attacks." As he spoke, his hands quickly tapped on the formation plate. Boom! Streaks of dazzling spiritual light surged up from the desert. These lights intertwined with one another before gradually disappearing into the void of space. The formation was complete. Gu Shan carefully sensed for a moment, then put away the formation plate and said, "Let's go. We need to gather more information." "Where to?" Xiaoxi asked. "Seven Gods Labyrinth," Gu Shan answered. "Fight that scorpion head-on?" Xiaoxi was startled. "No. Ask him some questions. Do you think he will answer honestly?" "I'll give it a try. I really don't know what you're thinking," Xiaoxi sighed. The entrance to the labyrinth. Gu Shan and Xiaoxi landed. He was holding Xiaoxi's hand with one hand, while his other hand was holding the formation plate in his sleeve. The black-skinned man was standing in front of him. "Why did you return?" the black-skinned man asked. "There's something I forgot," Gu Shan said. "What is it?" the black-skinned man asked. "According to the seven gods' will, entering the labyrinth and obtaining the three divine armaments will be enough to seal that monster away. I think we can do that," Gu Shan said. "What do you intend to do?" the black-skinned man asked. "I found the entrance to the labyrinth. It's hidden in the sand dune behind you," Gu Shan said. "Is that so?" the black-skinned man smiled. "That's right. So how about you come with us to the labyrinth and find the three divine armaments," Gu Shan said. He carefully looked at the black-skinned man. The burly man's face was lifeless. When he spoke, he tried his best to pull up the corners of his mouth, try to force a smile. "So that's what you want, but have you found the exit yet?" the man asked with a gentle voice. Gu Shan was a bit surprised. "We think we should find the divine armaments first," he slowly said. A split second later, he formed a hand seal on the formation plate. Sha! A flash of light. The long-distance warp formation was activated. Instantly, Both he and Xiaoxi disappeared. As soon as they disappeared, the sound of air being torn apart resounded. A long black stinger tore through the air, creating a large crater where Gu Shan originally stood. All the yellow sand turned green, melting with a sizzling sound. Disappeared? How regretful. Just a bit more, the black-skinned man muttered in a low voice, his expression full of malice. In the desert, at a very far-away place, countless lights appeared from the void of space, forming a five-colored light. The light quickly faded, revealing two figures in the desert. They were Gu Shan and Xiaoxi. Did you arrange a spatial warp formation? Xiaoxi asked. That's right, it's convenient to leave any time, Gu Shan replied. The two of them stood there without saying anything else. This time, the scorpion clearly didn't allow them to enter the labyrinth, directly showing his hostility. Now that we've fallen out with him, should we go fight him? Xiaoxi asked. No, I think it's strange. He's been very concerned about whether or not we can leave. Gu Shan fell into thought. Xiaoxi naturally said, if the monster's will is on him, the monster would definitely want to leave, Gu Shan said. Then let's try again, Xiaoxi said. We need to hurry. The others might have already deciphered quite a few poems, Gu Shan casually said. The more urgent the situation, the more we can't be hasty. Let's go. A few moments later, they once again stood in front of the black-skinned man. Without waiting for the black-skinned man to do anything, Gu Shan loudly called out, "We've found the exit. Do you want to come with us?" The black-skinned man made a fighting stance. The surging aura on his body had just risen, but after hearing these words, it immediately disappeared without a trace. The exit, the exit, the exit, he muttered in a low voice. That's right, Gu Shan invited him. Let's go, let's leave this damned world together. The black-skinned man's eyes were empty, but he still managed to squeeze out a smile. This damned world, yes, you're right, we should leave. He walked towards Gu Shan and Xiaoxi. Wait a minute, there's something else. Gu Shan waved her hand. The black-skinned man's expression turned grim. His voice became fierce and frenzied. What is it? You don't want to take me with you? Chapter 780. Hearing Gu Shan's words, the black-skinned man fell silent. For a while, he didn't know how to answer Gu Shan. After waiting for more than a minute, he finally said, My wife and child are dead. Dead? Gu Shan smiled. Don't joke around. Your wife is stronger than you are. If you're still alive, how could she be dead? The black-skinned man fell silent again. He was trying to think of how to answer. Gu Shan was smiling as she coldly stared at him. He was almost certain that this was a fake. But his presence, even the stinger he used to attack, was exactly the same as the black scorpion. Before the black-skinned man could think of an answer, Gu Shan activated the formation plate again. He brought Little Shi away and disappeared again, somewhere far away in the desert. The light of the formation flashed again. Gu Shan and Little Shi reappeared. Gu Shan took out the formation plate from his sleeve and took out the spirit stones embedded on it. As soon as they were taken out, these spirit stones crumbled to dust and scattered in the wind. The spirit stones that Gu Shan put on the formation plate were all top-grade spirit stones, which could be used many times during normal times. But in order to avoid the black scorpion as soon as possible, he had to use the formation plate as much as he could, which consumed a lot of spirit stones. Gu Shan took out a few new spirit stones and put them into the formation plate one by one. It has the black scorpion's appearance and attack, perfectly replicated, Gu Shan commented. Then is the black scorpion dead or not? Little Shi asked. I suspect that the scorpion family isn't dead, he said. How can you tell? Little Shi asked. If the demon scorpion empress is dead, then this monster would have immediately said, My wife and child are dead. You only need to take me with you. This is the simplest and most direct response. If possible, he would have even shown me the demon scorpion empress body, Gu Shan continued. But he didn't answer me right away. Instead fell into thought, Little Dusk replied. He's taking a bit too long. Gu Shan smiled and said, That's why we know something else. This monster isn't good at socializing with people. Nor does it know that staying silent for too long would arouse the suspicion of others. What do we do now? Little she asked. Now that we know so much, let's go again and get to the bottom of things, he said. What are you going to do? Are you planning to use this chain formation? Little Dusk asked. No, the situation has changed. Before we understand everything, we can't kill the scorpion directly, Gu Qingshan said. The black-faced man stood motionless in the desert. He was very irritable. What was up with that person just now? Why was he able to use his spatial ability so freely to escape in front of him? How regretful. Due to the figure of light's appearance, the majority of my power was suppressed by the desert. Otherwise, he would definitely be able to capture this person and interrogate him about the method to leave this world. Just as he was feeling vexed, that person appeared again. Gu Qingshan and Little Dusk appeared in front of him again. My wife and child are really dead. Take me with you. Let's leave this world, the black-faced man immediately said. This was what he had been thinking about for a long time. You're not the black scorpion, Gu Qingshan said straight away. How so? The black-faced man asked. Because I found him just now, Gu Qingshan replied. The black-faced man shook his head. That's impossible. I'm standing right here. Where did you see my impersonator? Come, Gu Qingshan said. The formation plate in his hand glowed. A second later, another black-faced man appeared next to him. This black-faced man looked exactly the same as the scorpion that guarded the labyrinth. There wasn't even the slightest difference. The two black-faced men stared at each other. He's a fake. You're the fake. They roared angrily and charged forward almost at the same time to meet the attack head-on. Boom! The sound of an explosion resounded in all directions, causing an invisible shockwave in the air. The two of them fell back where they stood. How is that possible? The black-faced man guarding the labyrinth muttered. Whether it was their presence, strength, fighting style, or habits, the other party was exactly the same as him, and even more experienced than he was in combat. This is the real him, and you're a fake, Gu Qingshan told him. The black-faced man couldn't say anything. Gu Qingshan continued. We're going to take the real him and escape from this world, leave alone, they're leaving. The black-faced man regained his senses. No, it's already too late to change bodies to stop them from leaving. But they're not weak, and there's even a black scorpion that's on par with me. I can't stop them from leaving. At this point, Gu Qingshan looked at the black-faced man, shook her head, and sighed. You impersonator can stay here. We're leaving. Seeing that she was about to leave, the black-faced man couldn't help but shout. Wait a minute. He's the fake. The scorpion's soul is with me. Gu Qingshan immediately stopped. Soul? The soul is with you? If that's the case, the scorpion's body was most likely being controlled. The monster most likely used some kind of possession technique to enter the scorpion's body and took over the scorpion's soul. This is a bit similar to the possession technique of the cultivation world. However, possession is a very dangerous thing to do, as you can easily lose everything you have if you're not careful. And with so many guards in the abyss of sin, a single cultivator couldn't possibly possess so many people at once. But all the guards had disappeared. This confirms another thing. This monster has the ability to control many people at once. But even now, no other guards have shown up. This also means something else. Although the monster can control the bodies of many living beings, it can only use one body at a time. In other words, the demon scorpion empress is still alive, but she's currently being stored away as the monster's spare body. Which means the only thing left to do now is to confirm. After calculating, Gu Qingshan couldn't help but laugh. This time, it was a genuine laugh, so he was laughing very happily. He turned to the person next to him. Little she, you need to get to know more people from now on. You can't be like him, staying in the seal all day long and being seen through no matter what you do. Little she sighed. I think his only problem is that he ran into you. The black-skinned man next to Gu Qingshan asked. Gongzi, what do we do now? Gu Qingshan replied. Simple. He threw the formation plate on the ground. A flash of light appeared on the formation plate. Long-distance teleportation is about to be activated. Gu Qingshan grabbed the black-skinned man in one hand and Little She in the other, then suddenly disappeared. Divine skill, shadow shift. The black-skinned man who was guarding the labyrinth instantly appeared where Gu Qing Shan originally stood. The formation was activated. In a split second, he was teleported away, while Gu Qing Shan's group of 3 appeared where the black-skinned man originally stood. "Come, let's enter the labyrinth," Gu Qing Shan said. "What about the black scorpion?" Little she couldn't help but ask. Gu Qing Shan replied, "With such a long distance, that monster won't be able to quickly return, and we've already entered the labyrinth. So we'll immediately give up on the black scorpion's body and use the other guard body in the labyrinth to protect the divine armament. That way, the monster won't know how I'll go through this labyrinth, and the black scorpion might be able to regain its freedom, if that's the case. The black scorpion will definitely come to save his wife and child. And once he enters the labyrinth, he'll be able to help me distract the monster. Now is the time for us to act." Gu Qing Shan looked at the black-skinned man. "Shanu, you can turn back now." "Yes." Gongzi, the black-skinned man, turned back into a blue-dress girl. The blue-dress girl returned a black branch to Gu Qing Shan. This was the thorn that the black scorpion gave Gu Qing Shan before. Just now, Shani used it to activate Mystery of All Beings Equal. Looking at this thorn, Gu Qing Shan silently sighed. He originally wanted to turn into a scorpion as well. That way, with Little Dusk's help, they would be able to quickly kill the other party. But now that he knows that the other party is using a scorpion's body, and that there's a chance that the scorpion can be saved, it won't be easy to act. After all, Uncle Scorpion is a decent person, so killing him to earn soul points would make him feel a bit guilty. "Keep it. It might come in handy at any time," Gu Qing Shan told her. "All right," Shanu put the thorn away. Little Dusk stared at the blue-dress girl's cold expression and exclaimed, "Wow, so pretty. Who are you, big sis?" "Hello, I'm Gongzi's sword. My name is Shanu," Shanu greeted her. Little Dusk hurriedly said, "Nice to meet you too. I'm your Gongzi's companion. My name is Dusk. You can call me Little Dusk." "All right, Little Dusk," Shanu smiled and lightly called her. She had always been by Gu Qing Shan's side, so she saw everything that happened and had a good impression of Little Dusk. Gu Qing Shan said, "All right, let's talk later. Let's go inside." Shanu turned back into the 6 Paths Great Mountain Sword and flew behind Gu Qing Shan. Gu Qing Shan brought Little Dusk toward the sand dune. As they got closer, the sand slowly parted. A flight of stairs leading downwards appeared in front of them. On the other side, the light of the formation faded. The black-skinned man appeared inside the formation. "Oh no, this is spatial warp." His expression was grim as he looked afar. "I need to return right now." The man's body moved, about to fly back. Shah! A flash of light. He suddenly disappeared and reappeared a few dozen feet behind him. The man looked around. He was warped again. His body moved again. Shah! A flash of light. This time, he wasn't even able to take a single step before he was transported to another formation. Interconnected warp formations. Anyone who tried to move within the formation would immediately trigger the formation. He would have to travel back and forth between 36 interconnected warp formations, unable to leave. If he was a formation expert, he would be able to break them one by one. But if he was destroyed by force, the black-skinned man slammed his fist on the ground. Crack! A faint sound came from the formation, as if it was about to break. The black-skinned man relaxed. "If that's the case, I can break it right away." But at the very next moment, another flash of light appeared. He was transported to another formation. This was a perfectly intact formation. The black-skinned man angrily unleashed a full-powered attack. Boom! The entire formation broke. But as soon as he attacked, he had already triggered the formation. A flash of light. The warp was complete. He was teleported to another intact spell formation. The black-skinned man took a deep breath. "Seems like I'll have to destroy the majority of the warp formations to be able to leave. But there's no time to waste. That person must have already entered the labyrinth. There's no other way. I have to leave this body and return immediately," the black-skinned man muttered. A second later, his body trembled as he fell into a blank state. A few moments later, the black-skinned man's eyes regained clarity. "Why am I here?" He looked around and gradually remembered what had happened. "So that's what happened. It used my body. Not good, wife, son. Wait for me." I'm coming to save you." The black-skinned man rushed forward. A flash of light. He was transported to another formation. After a bit of thought, he understood what happened. The black-skinned man sighed emotionally. Good, good, good. That's the only reason why it's in such a hurry to return, not even bothering to kill me. Chapter 781. A labyrinth. Rather than calling it a labyrinth, it would be more accurate to call it a grand divine palace. When Gu Shan stepped out of the quicksand, he felt like he had entered another world. Standing at the entrance of the palace, he was shocked by the scene in front of him. Bright green light, bright blue starlight, gray misty light, holy white light, deep purple light, glorious golden light, dark waterfall. The 7 different lights formed 7 figures of light whose faces couldn't be seen, silently hovering above the palace. Are these the divinities? Gu Shan asked. No, they only represent the power of the divinities, Little Dusk replied. The entire palace was grand and majestic. Even standing at the entrance of the palace, one could see the countless interconnected structures behind the palace, stretching all the way to the bottom of the quicksand. The outer wall of the palace was grand and elegant, decorated with pure white statues of people, elegant and lifelike, giving the entire palace a sense of solemnity and holiness. In the sky, the 7 figures of light were completely indifferent to Gu Shan's appearance. But a sealed envelope suddenly descended from the sky and landed in front of Gu Shan. Gu Shan received the envelope. The envelope exploded. A dignified voice resounded from thin air. Listen well, you're the first mortal to arrive here. You shall receive our explanation as well as the only reward you will receive. Countless years ago, we had already predicted this day's situation. One day, when we leave and the seal is released, it is very likely that the evil entity would take control of many powerful warriors, perhaps even a few of you in an attempt to steal or destroy the divine armaments. Do not worry. As soon as the figure of light appears, the evil entity's power will be temporarily suppressed. It will not be able to take over your bodies or imprison your souls. Furthermore, to deal with such a situation, we set up this labyrinth and hid the 3 divine armaments here. That evil entity will also not be able to find the divine armaments in a short period of time, so you will all be on the same starting line. To help you avoid the evil entity's obstruction, we have temporarily provided a method to face the trial. This method is space-time travel A. Coin appeared from the void of space and fell into Gu Shan's hand. The dignified voice continued. Using this coin, you'll cross the river of time and return to the moment 5 minutes ago. Remember, the coin can only be activated once. To activate it, you need to chant the incantation, "By God's will." This is enough to save your life. Let's go now. We're going to find the divine equipment. Mortal, this is an evil existence that the gods hate the most. You must seal it again. When you complete this task, you will become a demigod. This is God's promise to you. At this point, the voice faded away. Gu Shan held the coin in her hand and observed it carefully. The surface of the coin was smooth. Be it the front or the back, there were no patterns or words. The coin was thin and simple, not very exquisite. In front of Gu Shan, lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. Attention, this is the first time the War God system has come into contact with this item. The War God system is unable to provide you with any more information regarding this coin. The only thing I can confirm is that this seems to be a crude replica. A replica? Gu Shan was surprised. A replica can allow someone to travel through space-time and return to the past 5 minutes ago. Gu Shan couldn't help but ask, "System, can we also travel through space-time and return to the past?" "Ting," the War God UI replied. "Before you entered the 900 million world layers, we indeed had the power to travel through space-time. But ever since you entered the 900 million world layers, from a timeline perspective, you've changed too many things. Many things that were fated to appear and end have been forcefully changed by you. During the War of the Bramblebirds, the fate of the 900 million world layers underwent an unprecedented change. There are too many variables in space-time, So the fate of trillions of people was changed as a result, and so? Gu Shan asked. The changes you've brought about are so vast and vast that they've created great tides and ripples within the river of space-time that haven't yet dissipated. All changes are silently occurring and developing. The system is no longer able to clarify the timeline of time, space, and fate, nor is it able to travel through space-time. Gu Shan sighed and asked, if that's the case, this replica coin is also very valuable. The war god Ui replied, indeed, although it's only a replica, its power is able to bring you back to the past 5 minutes ago. Its power is unimaginable, incalculable, and immeasurable. Gu Shan muses, but this is still a replica. Are you sure it's a replica? Yes, it is indeed a shoddy imitation, the system confirmed. You really don't have any other information? Gu Shan asked, unwilling to give up. I don't. This is also the first time I come into contact with this coin, the system replied. Gu Shan fell silent. By using this coin, I can travel to the past 5 minutes before the event happened. In this world, the event can be anything like death, where the treasure goes, what I met, what I missed. In a crucial moment, this can change a person's fate. If the replica is already so powerful, then what about the real deal? Could it be that the real thing was also one of the 1001 coins? Gu Shan suddenly realized. He gave the coin to little Shi and hurriedly asked, have you seen this coin before? Which of the number 1001 coins can travel through space-time? Little Shi played with the coin with a curious expression and replied, this is also the first time I've seen this kind of coin. Seeing Gu Shan's disappointed expression, little Shi sincerely explained, no divinity can travel through space-time, otherwise they wouldn't have died. Gu Shan asked, which means no other coin could do that. Correct, little Shi confirmed. Gu Shan didn't give up and asked, but we have one right now. This is a coin forged by the 7 demons. Wouldn't the divinities secretly forge a coin that can travel even further, like a few years? No wonder he was so concerned, because he had already experienced space-time travel once before, so he understood it very well. This can change my fate, the fate of the world, the fate of billions of people. If I can go back again, there's no need to go that far. If I can see through the secret of the number 944 coin and find the desolate Terminator's weakness, I can use space-time travel to go back and kill it. That way, not only would I be able to save a lot of people, but Lady Black Sea wouldn't have died in battle. Lady Black Sea knows my true identity. As long as I can save her, I'll have a chance to find out everything. Little She shook her head. The 7 demons believe that traveling through space-time will mess up the past and present of many worlds, so they're very against space-time travel. She looked at Gu Shan and hesitated. I'll say something disrespectful to the divinities, but the 7 demons don't actually have the power to travel through space-time. They're the weakest among all the divinities. For example, among the 1001 coins, they only forged the first 700 coins, the last 301 coins were forged by the 4 pillar gods. Can the 4 pillar gods travel through space-time? They can't either. So, this coin was most likely obtained by the demons by chance. Why didn't they keep it for themselves? The power of the divinities is tied to too many things. This coin might be able to allow a mortal to travel for 5 minutes. But it's probably useless against the divinities. Little She handed the coin back to him. Gu Shan received the coin and sighed. Fine, the most important thing right now is to find her expression. Chapter 782. The Black Market. Some people had the 7 holy Bibles spread out in front of themselves, flipping through them while thinking about something. Some people gathered together, exchanging information. Some people disappeared into the darkness and silently left. The number of people in the black market began to decrease. A professionist sensed something, looked up, and asked in confusion, why do I feel like there's a lot less people here? Another person next to him seriously flipped through the Holy Bibles and answered without looking up. They've already found all the poems of prophecy and solved the labyrinth. They're probably heading there right now. That person was shocked. Does that mean we don't have a chance anymore? His companion replied, not necessarily. That's a labyrinth set up by the divinities. It's not a place where we can easily obtain divine armaments. Let's not talk anymore. Let's find the poems of prophecy. The door of the labyrinth was pushed open. Along the long hallway, numerous statues with weapons in their hand were displayed on both sides. At the center of the hallway, a giant statue stood still. It was a giant clad in full armor. He was wielding a large battle axe that was raised up high, as if about to attack someone. Although there was no one wielding the axe, there were several overlapping images moving around the axe's blade, slicing black lines into the air around it. This is a soul artifact. Little Dusk pointed at the battle axe and showed it to Gu Qin-shan. Gu Qin-shan nodded. He suddenly recalled back in Tree's collection world. Lolo once gave a soul artifact to Enli as a reward. At the time, Enli was afraid that Gu Qin-shan didn't understand the situation, so he specifically told her how precious a soul artifact was to Gu Qin-shan. Soul artifacts contain unimaginable power. The stronger a person is, the more power they can exert when using a soul artifact. Soul artifacts have always been synonymous with precious treasures. In the strife zones, other than the 1001 coins, only such precious artifacts are allowed to be circulated among the myriad races. Gu Qin-shan's gaze turned towards the giant statue. This is a warden of the abyss of sin. I've seen him before. The ones around him are his servants, Little Dusk explained. It seems that when the soul is imprisoned by that monster, the body will turn into a statue like this, Gu Qin-shan commented. Little She urged, let's go in quickly. Otherwise, if that monster takes possession of this guard's body, it'll be troublesome. You're right, it's probably coming back soon, Gu Qin-shan said. A guard of the abyss of sin was very powerful, and this guard even had a soul armament. Although it was unknown what rank of soul armament it was already very difficult to deal with. He took Xiaoxi's hand and disappeared. Divine skill, ground shrink. The two of them immediately appeared at the other end of the corridor. They left the corridor, pushed open the door, and immediately stepped into a garden. In the sky, the 7 rays of light were still emitting a solemn radiance. However, what was surprising was that the snow was still falling. Heavy snowflakes fluttered in the air, and a cold wind blew through the entire garden. There were many roads in the garden that led to nearly 100 large buildings. There was also a mountain in the distance. Yes, there was a mountain in the labyrinth. There was a waterfall on the mountain, and there were a few minarets and bungalows on the top of the mountain. Numerous statues of the Abyss of Sin guards were scattered throughout the garden. These statues stood motionlessly, guarding the paths that led to different locations. As expected of a labyrinth, there are at least a few dozen paths and so many buildings. I'm afraid we'll need you to find out where the divine armament is hidden. Little She looked around and said. Gu Qin-shan carefully observed her surroundings. All the roads were covered in white snow, and there were no footprints at all. Seems like these Abyss of Sin guards have been controlled for a very long time. Furthermore, these buildings were all built in the same style and scale as the Holy Church. According to the memories of the soul reading officer, it was possible to deduce the purpose of many of these buildings from their appearance. Gu Qin-shan followed the 3 directions shown by Miracle Search and chose the closest one. It was the library next to the chapel. Indeed, the first divine armament was hidden inside the library. Gu Qin-shan said, "It should be that way. Let's go." Little She was about to fly forward. Gu Qin-shan pulled her back. "What are we waiting for?" Little She asked in confusion. Looking at the time, that monster should be returning soon. It's better to move alone than 2 people. Turn into a card and hide on me. I'll call you when I need you, Gu Qin-shan said. All right. Little She answered without hesitation. She took a step back as a bright green rune appeared around her body. She quickly turned into a bright green card and flew into Gu Qin-shan's hand. Putting the card away, Gu Qin-shan's body shifted and turned into a snow eagle. The snow eagle flew up in the sky, high up in the sky. At this point, the garden was completely silent. The monster had turned all the guards into statues. Statues wouldn't float in the sky. Even if the statues noticed this eagle, they wouldn't be able to attack it right away because it was flying too high. In the event that the monster suddenly appeared, Gu Qin-shan would have a bit of time to react. The snow eagle flew to the top of the library. It quickly turned around in the air and turned into a bee. The bee was lying on top of a snowflake that looked like goose feathers drifting down along with the wind, only moving its wings when necessary. The snowflake silently landed on the roof of the library. The bee went into the thick layer of snow. It crawled all the way to the roof tiles before turning into an even smaller ant. The ant suddenly stopped. He released his inner sight and sensed some sort of commotion in the garden. A guard of the abyss of sin that gave off a terrifying presence was pacing back and forth. The monster had returned. The ant stopped for a bit longer. It patiently waited until the monster entered a certain building. The ant then crawled along the tiny gap between the tiles until it reached a certain air vent. The ant crawled into the air vent. It crawled along the long air vent until it reached the air vent on the ceiling of the library. The ant stopped for a bit, peeked its head out, and looked down, only to see rows upon rows of books neatly arranged in the main hall. A statue was sitting at the circulation counter of the library. The light from the fireplace shone on his body, highlighting his old and sorrowful appearance. This was a human wearing a robe and holding a scepter in his hand. To be able to become a guard of the abyss of sin with a human body, this person must be very powerful. The ant only took a glance and went back. Although the other party didn't do anything, he felt that it was better to be cautious, because he couldn't tell if the guard below was a wizard or a wizard. If it was a wizard, Gu Qing Shan could choose to engage in close combat and kill him in a few strikes. As a wizard, turning back from a statue and having to cast a spell right away wouldn't be as fast as Gu Qing Shan's Life Seeker. But it was a different story if it was a wizard. Wizards didn't just know how to use spells. Many wizards were also quite skilled in close combat. Gu Qing Shan estimated that it would be very difficult for him to kill a wizard of the same level as the Black Scorpion with his current strength. Turning back into a scorpion at this point would be a waste of soul points. It would be best if he didn't waste even a single bit of soul points. More importantly, even if he killed the old man, there would still be more powerful guards of the abyss of sin coming for him. While he was thinking, a female voice resounded in his mind. Little Dusk asked, "Did you find the location of the divine armament?" She was curious as to where the divine armament was hidden. Gu Qing Shan sent her voice. "I found it. It's right next to the statue, inside the wall behind the fireplace." Little Dusk was surprised. "How could it be hidden so well?" Gu Qing Shan replied, "When the divinity gave me the coin just now, he already gave me a hint." "What hint?" Little Dusk asked. Gu Qing Shan replied, "He said that he set up a labyrinth to hide the 3 divine armaments here, buried." "That's what he meant," Little Dusk commented. "It seems the divinity was afraid that the divine armaments would fall into the monster's hands. The monster would definitely destroy them," Gu Qing Shan commented. "It seems the divinity understood this monster quite well. They knew that with the monster's way of thinking, it wouldn't know that there were things hidden inside the wall." Little Dusk asked, "If we go down now, will the monster notice?" "Definitely," Gu Qing Shan replied. "Why are you so sure?" Little Dusk asked. "Because the monster specifically placed a statue down here, which means that as long as the statue is here, it will be able to observe everything that happens here, as well as enter the statue's body at any time," Gu Qing Shan explained. "Then what do we do?" Little Dusk asked. "I'm thinking," Gu Qing Shan replied. Little Dusk suggested, "How about I lure him away?" Gu Qing Shan shook her head. "With your current strength, you'll definitely be stalled by him. Then the monster will send the strongest guard of the abyss of sin to kill you." Little Dusk smiled and said, "Seems like you still don't understand the envoy of condemnation's fighting style." A card appeared out of thin air in front of the ant. This card didn't have any patterns on it, only 3 lines of text. "Angel of Condemnation, Dusk has requested to become one of your summoning cards. Do you accept? This summoning contract is free. If you agree, please touch this card lightly." The ant paused briefly, then lightly touched the card with its antennae. The contract card then turned into a jade-green card that hovered in front of the ant. Little Dusk was standing on top of the card, covering her mouth as she giggled. The ant didn't move for a while. "All right, I was surprised," Gu Qing Shan's center voice. "What's there to be surprised about? Since it's an envoy of condemnation, You can naturally sign a summoning contract, Little Dusk explained. Then what should we do next? Gu Shan asked. Little Dusk triumphantly replied, Come, Big Sis will teach you. First, you need to summon me. Inside the silent library, a loud noise abruptly resounded. The ceiling was broken open as a white-clothed girl descended from above. As she descended, she was already holding a few cards in her hand. Light of flame refinement, the girl shouted. She threw a card onto the table. The card disappeared. Intense flames manifested from thin air and surrounded the statue. As soon as the girl appeared, the statue came to life. The old man swung his scepter, summoning a layer of frigid air to cover himself. I'm going to kill you, the old man shouted in a low voice. The white-clothed girl made a face, turned around, and ran. She broke through the library's door and ran towards the garden. The old man slammed his scepter on the ground. Immediately, a black snake carried him on its back and chased after him at lightning speed. One running and one chasing, they quickly went far away. At this point, a person appeared in front of the fireplace. Gu Shan. He slashed his sword into the fire. Wherever the sword phantom went, the wall was immediately broken. A luxurious box silently sat inside the wall. Gu Shan waved her hand and put the box into her inventory bag. At the very next moment, Gu Shan disappeared. The entire process only lasted for a single second. He reappeared in the air, ducked, and shouted, Dismiss the summoning. In the garden outside the library, Little Dusk, who was still running, suddenly turned into a puff of smoke and disappeared from the old man's sight. The old man froze. Damn it, he roared and unleashed a spell towards where Little Dusk originally stood. Boom! A deep hole appeared on the ground. On the other side, a summoning card appeared in front of the ant. Little Dusk stood inside the card, smiling at the ant. A few moments later, the old man finally remembered something and angrily rushed back to the library to check the situation. He could only see the empty hole in the wall. Chapter 783. Boom! The blinding light of the sun continued to shine. Under the destructive light of the spell, the entire library slowly crumbled and turned to ash. The wizard stood in the middle of the ruins, furious. Damn it! One of my divine armaments was stolen. Although I already knew that buildings blessed by the old gods would be able to block my senses, how could I have known that the old gods would hide something inside the walls? But now that I've discovered this, the wizard swung his scepter. The secret power of the spell was activated, manifesting into streaks of light that crashed into the other buildings. Boom! 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 The buildings were flattened one after another. But there were too many buildings. Even on top of the mountain far away, there were still many buildings. The wizard continued to cast his spell without stopping. The light of the spell illuminated the entire labyrinth. The wind blew. The snowflakes danced in the air. The apocalyptic scene continued until the door of the corridor opened again. The black-skinned man appeared. The wizard stopped and looked at him. Bastard, let go of my wife and child, the black-skinned man angrily shouted. The wizard coldly replied, You were all captured by the old gods. What does that have to do with me? You've imprisoned our souls and taken control of our bodies. The black-skinned man gritted his teeth. The wizard suddenly laughed. Those who should die are dead. Those who can live will naturally live. The black-skinned man was surprised, unable to understand what the other party was talking about. He didn't say anything else and charged forward to fight the wizard. On the other side of the labyrinth, almost every building had been flattened by the spell. In a secluded area, a butterfly was hiding on a branch behind a large tree. It had retracted its wings, tightly holding onto the edge of the leaf so that it wouldn't be blown away by the wind and snow. Gu Shan. He silently watched as the wizard destroyed the buildings until the black-skinned man arrived. Those who should die are dead. Those who can live will naturally live. He silently chewed on this. What does it mean to die? What does it mean to live? What kind of standard does the monster use to determine a person's life and death? While Gu Shan was pondering this question, Xiaoxi's voice suddenly sounded in her mind. Gu Shan, it destroyed all these buildings. Did it destroy the remaining 2 divine artifacts as well? Xiaoxi's voice was a bit nervous. Gu Qingshan regained her senses and said, I heard that the sorcerer's attacks originate from the web of laws. It's extremely powerful and can easily destroy everything. Xiaoxi was surprised. You know? Wait a minute. You took the divine artifact, but left behind a trace. Did you want it to destroy the building? Gu Qingshan replied, That's right, but I also need it to be angry. When any creature is angry, they will unknowingly reveal something. This way we can better understand it. Little Dusk asked, What about these buildings? The divine artifact might have been destroyed. Wait, you know where the other 2 divine artifacts are? Gu Qingshan explained. The second divine artifact is hidden underneath the clock tower. The monster just helped us push the tower to the ground. Look, it's the second building on our left. It's a product of alchemy. There's no way to enter it, but there must be an underground tunnel. We can go down now. Xiaoxi, you used the monster to push the tower. Let's go. We're going to take the second divine artifact, Gu Qingshan said. The butterfly took a chance, lightly flew up, landed on a snowflake, and floated down into the thick layer of snow. The butterfly was nowhere to be seen. A gopher appeared under the layer of snow. It held its breath, clenched its claws, formed a presence concealment hand seal, then hesitated for a bit before turning into an even smaller ant. The ant activated its skill towards the clock tower. It suddenly disappeared. A snowflake appeared where the ant originally was, while the ant replaced that snowflake and silently hid under another layer of snow. From the surface, the layer of snow was still and silent without any signs of movement. Divine skill, shadow shift. The ant itself wasn't even the size of a fingernail, but with the presence concealment hand seal and shadow shift, it was as if it didn't exist at all. After the ant moved once, it temporarily stopped moving. It stayed close to the ground, listening. On the other side of the labyrinth, the battle was reaching its climax. The wizard was already unable to stop the black-skinned man's ferocious attacks, so he took a few steps back and turned into a statue. A second later, another abyss of Singard arrived. The monster had changed its body. This time, it chose a slender shadow assassin. The assassin wielded a pair of long daggers, staggered forward a few steps, and reached the black-skinned man's back. A cold gleam. Key. The daggers clashed with the stinger, giving off a crisp sound of air being pierced. The assassin went back into the shadows. The man roared and chased after it. The battle resumed. On the other side, the ant crouched on the snow-covered ground and waited for 2 breaths worth of time. When the assassin and the man clashed again, the ant immediately used shadow shift. This time, it went straight to where the clock tower used to be. Sure enough, there was a staircase leading downwards in the ruins. The ant climbed down the staircase. The tunnel was very deep, so in just a few minutes, it had turned into a vertical path. The ant was a bit impatient, leapt up, and flew down towards the depths of the tunnel. In just a few moments, it reached the bottom. This was a simple storage room, filled with various old alchemy equipment. After so many years, all of this equipment had decayed to the point where it couldn't be used anymore. The ant avoided the equipment, crawled to the middle of the storage room, and sensed around. It quickly found that place. It was an unassuming piece of brick in the corner of the room. The ant crawled over, touched the brick with its antennae, and sensed the presence of an item created by God. After confirming, the ant retreated a bit. A sword appeared out of nowhere above the ant and lightly tapped the brick. The brick gave off an invisible fluctuation, as if sensing what kind of entity the attack was coming from. Crack! The brick broke down into grains of sand, scattering all over the ground. A luxurious palm-sized box suddenly appeared. Gu Qingshan dispelled, mystery of all beings equal, and put the box away. With a flip of his hand, he took out an array disk and set up all sorts of aura isolation and tracking arrays. Then, he set up a teleportation array. After everything was done, he took out the 2 boxes. 2 boxes. One from the library, the other from the clock tower. Gu Qingshan looked at the boxes in silence. What are you hesitating for? Little she couldn't help but ask. I feel like something strange, Gu Qingshan replied. What's strange about it? Little she When you sealed this monster all those years ago, you used up all of your power. That's why the divinities managed to subdue you and sealed you away. Isn't that right? That's right, that's what's strange, Gu Qing Shan slowly explained. At the time, your power far surpassed that of the divinities. Even you had to use up all of your power to seal the monster away. And now, the divinities are gone. How could they possibly seal the monster away with just 3 divine armaments? Little she froze, then pondered, perhaps during the time I was sealed away, the 7 demons had gained even more power and could easily seal this monster away. That's even more strange. If the 7 demons were really that powerful, how could they have died? Saying so, Gu Qing Shan's expression became serious. The information we have right now is too limited, so I can only make 3 hypotheses. First, the 7 demons aren't dead. They were already powerful enough to seal this monster away. So why didn't they show up? I'm guessing that for some reason, they're hiding in the shadows, preparing something. So these 3 divine armaments are actually under their control. That's why they have the power to seal the monster away. Second, the 7 demons aren't dead. But just like before, they still don't have the power to seal the monster away. Third, the 7 demons are dead. Their power is unable to fight against the greater evil. Following this, we can assume that they haven't become much stronger. In other words, they're still weaker than you were back then. If it's the first case, we naturally don't need to worry too much. But if it's the second or third case, then these 3 divine armaments must have some sort of use that we don't know about. While they were talking, Gu Qing Shan opened the 2 boxes. The 2 divine armaments silently laid inside. Only 1 more divine armament was left before everything would be over. According to what the figure of light said, the monster would be sealed away again, and as the wielder of the divine armaments, Gu Qing Shan would receive an unparalleled reward. He would become a demigod. And Gu Qing Shan knew exactly where the 3rd divine armament was. If it had been someone else, they would have rushed out like a madman to retrieve the final artifact and seal the monster as soon as possible. But Gu Qing Shan didn't. He stared at the 2 divine armaments with a worried expression on his face. Noticing his worried expression, little she consoled him. What are you worried about? Don't worry. Although the divinities like to arrange a lot of things, they won't act against mortals like you. In fact, they really like mortals like you who help them seal away evil. You can't think like that. Little she, you have to remember one thing. We can never entrust our fate to the likes and dislikes of the divinities. I'll keep that in mind, Gu Qing Shan muttered. The current situation is that we can't tell what the divinities are thinking, nor can we be sure what will happen after the 3 divine armaments are gathered. So we have to stop. Stop! Chapter 784. Inside the box, the 2 divine armaments exuded an air of vicissitudes, completely exposed in front of Gu Qing Shan. A long bone that gave off a faint glow. A pair of eyeballs that were completely black. As soon as these 2 items were placed together, they immediately reacted. The eyeballs began to absorb the faint glow from the bone. As if being stimulated, the bone began to glow even more brightly. Just like that, the eyeballs began to gain more and more power. Gu Qing Shan was silently surprised. He couldn't help but reach his hand out, wanting to see what kind of description the war god UI had. But as soon as he reached his hand out, he was stopped by an invisible force from the 2 divine armaments. I can't touch them? While Gu Qing Shan was surprised, a line of glowing text appeared on the war god UI. An invisible force has enveloped these 2 organs, preventing all methods of investigation. So the system cannot obtain any more information. From afar, a strange fluctuation appeared. It was as if something had sensed the existence of these 2 items far above the sky. Above the sky, there were 7 figures of light that represented the divinities. Right after that, something seemed to be about to happen. Gu Qing Shan abruptly reached his hand out and closed the box. Since this box was able to store the divine armaments without being discovered, it must have a powerful isolation ability. Hopefully, it can still seal these 2 divine armaments. As soon as the box was closed, all the supernatural phenomena disappeared. Gu Qing Shan's gamble was correct. He exhaled deeply. Right now, I have too many questions. I'm not willing to hand over the divine armaments just like that. What a strange thing. I thought it would be some sort of intricate creation, but it's actually organs, Gu Qing Shan muttered. Little Dusk explained. At the very beginning, the divinities used something similar to this kind of organ. It wasn't until many years later, when they gradually grasped more and more creation techniques, that they gradually abandoned this crude method of using power. What did these organs come from? Gu Qing Shan asked. Little Dusk answered matter-of-factly. The corpses of the void monsters from the Age of Desolation. Gu Qing Shan was surprised. Divinities used the bodies of void monsters as weapons? Little Dusk replied. Indeed, the void monsters of the Age of Desolation were extremely powerful. Some of them were so powerful that even divinities couldn't fight against them. Gu Qing Shan smiled bitterly. Even in this era, there is no one who can deal with the most powerful void monsters. He put the 2 boxes away. Next, we'll consider going to, as Gu Qing Shan was speaking, the light from the formation suddenly became chaotic. Many rays of light converged into dots and quickly moved in the air. Gu Qing Shan stopped talking and stared at the light. This was the detection circle showing the changes in the outside world. At the same time, dozens of powerful auras appeared on the ground. What followed next was the sound of trivial whispers. Who should we help? Ignore these 2 monsters. Let's go. Everyone else, follow me. I know the location of a divine artifact. This king wants to become a half-deity this time. With just you? Quick, ignore them. Gu Qing Shan's expression changed. The people from the black market are here, he muttered in a low voice. A few moments later, Gu Qing Shan flew out from the storage room and returned to the surface through the underground tunnel. Sure enough, the combatants from the black market were already here. They scattered into the labyrinth to search for the divine artifact. At the center of the labyrinth, the black scorpion was fighting against a giant. Needless to say, that giant was the monster's new body. Gu Qing Shan quickly left. He found a building that was still intact, leaned against the wall, and silently released his inner sight to observe his surroundings. As Little Dusk looked at him, she saw that his expression was becoming more and more worried. Gu Qing Shan, what's wrong? She asked. I feel like there are too many things that aren't right, Gu Qing Shan replied. Little Dusk turned back into a real person and smiled at him. It's okay. I'm still here. If anything happens, I'll protect you. While they were talking, screams and curses could be heard from afar. Damn it, the divine artifact isn't here. Gu Qing Shan couldn't help but look back, only to see a few people crawling on top of the ruins of the library, frantically searching for it. A few more people were running towards the ruins of the clock tower. Sure enough, they managed to decipher the poem of prophecy. More and more people joined in the search for the divine artifact. The possessed giant saw all of this. He roared in anger, exerting all of his strength to throw a flaming punch at the black scorpion. Boom! The ground trembled. The intense wind from the punch turned into a sky-high pillar of flame that lit up the thick layer of clouds in the sky. The snow stopped. The rain continued to pour down. At the center of the labyrinth, the black scorpion was sent flying several hundred meters away. He rolled on the ground, only stopping after crashing into a church. The black scorpion coughed up some blood and tried to stand up, but couldn't. The giant was still standing there. As the rain continued to fall on his body, it turned into steam with a sizzling sound. The giant took a deep breath, looked up and roared, "What do you think you're doing, Stu? Hebo and ID." He appeared to be very lonely, his roar full of sorrow and anger. Although the combatants were surprised by how powerful the giant was, they didn't stop and continued to search for the divine artifact. Gu Qing Shan silently listened to the giant's roar, scowled, and said nothing. Although she's learned many languages, Gu Qing Shan has never heard this language before. This must be the monster's native language. It was only in this kind of situation where it was about to be sealed that it would abandon other languages and involuntarily speak its own language. This also means that the monster has let down its guard. This must be a very important sentence. Gu Qing Shan turned around and saw that Little Dusk's expression was a bit strange. Little Dusk, do you know what language the monster speaks? Gu Qing Shan asked. Little Dusk replied, it speaks the common language of the old gods and monsters. This language has long since been abolished by the old gods, but because I have to fight against them, the old gods taught me this language. Saying so, she took out a lapis card. A tattered old book was drawn on the card. Little Dusk placed the card in front of Gu Shan's chest. This is the desolate language. It's a language from a long time ago, and having been destroyed by the divinities, it's most likely already lost. If you choose to accept it and put it in your card deck, you'll be able to understand the monster's words and use this language. Gu Shan then chose to accept it. The card turned into a bright green glow that slowly melted into Gu Shan's body. A few moments later, Gu Shan carefully recalled what the monster said just now and found that she understood what it meant. While recalling, Gu Shan muttered, "The old gods are one thing, but why did you also want to seal me away? Was that what the monster meant?" "That's right," Little Dusk sighed and lowered her head. "Now that I think about it, this monster has been sealed away since birth. It's actually quite pitiful." Gu Shan was stunned, not even hearing what Little Dusk said. He felt a deep chill in his heart. "That's not right," Gu Shan muttered in a low voice. Little Dusk replied, "It's not wrong. Look at how many people appeared at once, but its power is being suppressed by the figure of light. That's why it feels despair." "Despair?" Gu Shan asked. "Yes, after all, it can only possess a single abyss of Sin Warden, and with so many people entering the labyrinth, it can't kill them all," Little Dusk replied. Gu Shan suddenly shook her head. "No, that's definitely not it then. Wait a minute. What happened to you?" Little Dusk looked worriedly at Gu Shan, only to see that Gu Shan's face was pale. Her eyes were cold, no longer as calm as before. Gu Shan spoke in a low voice. "I'm not sure if you noticed, but when it said that, it was looking up at the sky. In other words, it wasn't speaking to us who were looking for the divine armaments. It was speaking to the one who set up this seal." Gu Shan repeated. "The monster said, 'It's fine if it's the divinities, but why did you also want to seal me away?' That's..." Little Dusk froze, not knowing what to say. Gu Shan lightly nodded and sent her voice. "That's right. The one who set up this wasn't the divinities." Then, Little Dusk stammered, unable to say what she wanted to say. "That's right. If the monster wasn't lying," Gu Shan continued, "if this was caused by the figure of light, then the fact that it was the figure of light who lit up the tree of divinity was also not the will of the divinities. The divinities are most likely already dead. Something is hiding behind all of this. It is pretending to be the divinities and trying to nurture a new divinity." Gu Shan spoke in a low and cold voice. This was truly an earth-shattering event. There probably wasn't a more terrifying secret in the entire 900 million world layers than this. Gu Shan and Little Dusk exchanged glances, both feeling the same fear in the other's heart. They both turned to the giant at the same time, only to see that the giant's expression had changed. With an expression of despair, it leapt at the professionists closest to it. With a flaming fist, it casually swung and killed those professionists in just a few strikes. The giant loudly uttered a long string of words. "Accomplices, lackeys, you don't know anything, but now you can all die." These were the giant's exact words. This time, Gu Shan understood. Following that, the giant charged at another group of professionists. Even though a few combatants tried their best to resist, they were still too weak compared to the giant. And this giant was the most powerful guardian in the entire abyss of sin. The giant began his massacre. Everyone else felt the fear of death, but not many managed to escape the labyrinth. Everyone was filled with hope and fanaticism. "As long as I can find a divine armament, I'll become a demigod." Fortune comes from danger. This was a rare chance. They had to take it no matter what. Everyone became even more frenzied in their search for the divine armament. Within the labyrinth, only Gu Shan and Little Dusk didn't move. "What do we do now?" Little Dusk was at a loss. "Let's go. Let's escape from here first," Gu Shan resolutely declared. As he was about to pull Little Dusk away, a voice suddenly resounded. "Aha! I found a divine armament. I found a divine armament." An old man was standing on the roof of a building in a seemingly insane state. He was holding a treasure box in his hand. Gu Shan's expression changed and shouted, "No, don't open it." But it was already too late. Many people rushed toward the old man. The old man quickly opened the lid of the treasure box. A chaotic aura suddenly rose from the treasure box and soared into the sky. Chapter 785. The old man opened the box and took out a crown made of bone. The seven figures of light in the sky immediately noticed him. "So it was my follower," one of the figures of light lightly spoke. A holy hymn resounded from above. Boundless divine power manifested from his body as a deep blue light that illuminated the entire labyrinth like a vast ocean. Those who tried to attack or steal from the old man immediately noticed this immense power. Divinity, it's the god of space and time. Someone shouted in despair and awe. Everyone quickly knelt down and lowered their heads. Under the gaze of a god, no one dared to steal from the old man again. If anyone dared to do so, it would be the same as offending the dignity of a god. Mortals could never offend a god, otherwise they would be hanged by the Holy Church. In the strife zones, faith was something that ran through every person's life. The seven gods were always supreme, and even the clergy could not be insulted. At this point, the god of space and time had arrived. After observing for so long, Gu Shan made up his mind. He clenched his teeth and took out the coin that could allow him to travel back 5 minutes ago. Just as he was about to chant the incantation, the coin left his hand and lightly hovered in the air. A hand lightly picked up the coin. The figure of light. The seven figures of light had fused into one, manifesting as a humanoid figure with a pair of wings on its back that gave off a holy light. The figure of light stared closely at Gu Shan and asked with an indescribable tone, "Lucky one to enter the labyrinth first. Why do you want to travel back 5 minutes ago?" The light behind him flowed like a surging torrent that enveloped Gu Shan. Gu Shan felt like he was standing in the middle of a raging storm, about to be turned into a speck of dust by the overwhelming divine power at any moment. Gu Shan knew that life and death were only a thin line away. He pointed at the old man and angrily shouted, "I was the one who came here first. I want to travel back 5 minutes ago and take that divine artifact for myself." The figure of light went silent briefly, then lightly tapped Gu Shan's body. 2 treasure boxes flew out from Gu Shan's inventory bag and landed in the figure of light's hand. The treasure box opened automatically. A pair of black eyeballs, a long bone. As the figure of light looked at the 2 divine armaments, the surging divine power around its body slowly calmed down. The bone crown flew over and steadily landed in front of the figure of light. The 3 divine artifacts floated motionlessly. At this moment, they were all gathered. The figure of light spoke. "No need to explain. I can sense your sincerity." It chanted an incantation towards the 3 divine armaments. After that, the figure of light swung the long white bone and shouted at the giant guard. With this light shout, the white bone emitted a ball of light and fiercely struck the giant's body. A huge black shadow rose from the giant's body and let out a miserable whimper before drilling into the ground and disappearing. Facing the figure of light's divine armament attack, the monster couldn't endure it any longer and couldn't help but abandon its body and escape underground. The giant immediately regained his senses. He looked at the figure of light in the sky and hurriedly knelt down. The black scorpion also knelt down. Next to him, the demon scorpion empress and her son appeared out of nowhere. They seemed to be perfectly fine. The figure of light seemed pleased and continued to speak to Gu Shan, who didn't need to travel through space at all. In fact, being able to find 2 divine armaments is already an excellent performance after that. It spoke the words that Gu Shan couldn't forget. What's even more praiseworthy is that you found her. Gu Shan was a bit surprised. The figure of light chanted a short incantation. If Gu Shan didn't hear it wrong, this was an incantation chanted in the desolate language. Capture following the figure of light's words. The bone crown landed on Little Dusk's head. The bone broke apart and turned into a pale white yet elegant set of armor that fully equipped Little Dusk. Finally, the pair of black eyes entered Little Dusk's eyes. During this entire process, neither Gu Qin Shan nor Little Dusk could move. Boom! Boundless air currents erupted from Little Dusk's body. Little Dusk hurriedly looked at Gu Qin Shan and muttered, "Qin Shan." This was her last look. At the very next moment, Little Dusk lowered her head and fell unconscious. The figure of light drew a line in the void of space. Little Dusk fell inside. Little Dusk disappeared from this world. Gu Qin Shan froze. The figure of light no longer looked at her and slowly flew up. The wings on its back abruptly flapped. In an instant, all 200 million world layers sensed its divine might. In countless worlds, people prostrated themselves on the ground, sincerely praying to the God of creation. In every world, the figure of light and the entire labyrinth appeared in front of everyone's eyes. All 200 million world layers were watching everything that happened in the labyrinth. The figure of light spoke with a solemn and dignified tone. All living beings of the 10 worlds must remember, today's events are as if the God of creation had appeared in front of you and explained the truth to you. Everyone prostrated themselves on the ground, chanting the name of the God they believed in and loudly nodded. The figure of light looked at the old man who found the crown of bones and gently asked, "You've helped the God of creation complete the seal against evil. Now I ask you, do you have any wishes?" The old man was so moved that he was crying and loudly declared, "Oh God, I want to become a demigod. Are you sure?" "Yes, Neil. You are a devout believer of the God of space and time. You should receive the full glory of the divine tree of space and time," the figure of light declared. The old man knelt down without hesitation. The figure of light flew over and lightly tapped the old man's forehead. A clear and resplendent blue light instantly erupted from the old man's forehead. Wisps of light emerged and gradually wrapped around the old man, forming a blue ball of light that was as clear as glass. The figure of light placed its hand on the blue ball of light and asked, "Is there a servant of the Holy Church of Space and Time?" Amidst the infinite worlds, inside the Holy Church of Space and Time in the deep-sea Starwheel realm, the Pope and the 8 cardinals all knelt down and answered, "O Spirit of the 7 gods, the servant of the Lord of Space and Time awaits your command." The figure of light pushed the blue ball of light forward. Across countless worlds, the blue ball of light directly fell into the Holy Church of Space and Time. The figure of light spoke, "I order you to select pure believers and have them surround this sleeping holy apostle, chanting the Holy Bible of Space and Time for 7 days straight until the holy apostle turns into a demigod and fully awakens. As you command, the Pope, the 8 cardinals, the entire Holy Church, as well as all the believers of the God of space and time within the 200 million worlds replied at once. After doing that, the figure of light flew back in front of Gu Qin Shan. Hovering in the air, it once again declared to the infinite worlds, "In front of me is a servant of God who is even more devout and has contributed even more than before. He helped the gods obtain 2 divine armaments and seal away evil. He helped the gods seal away an exceedingly powerful weapon. God's mercy and grace are reserved for such a loyal and excellent servant, although he is yet to join any holy church. I hereby grant him the privilege to light any tree of divinity come. In front of all living beings, state your choice." The figure of light looked at Gu Qin Shan. Gu Qin Shan also looked at the figure of light. In front of billions of worlds and countless living beings, right now, Gu Qin Shan was about to make her choice to light her tree of divinity. As Gu Qin Shan thought about it, a faint smile appeared on her face. "God, is your promise true?" he asked. "The words of God are true," the figure of light replied. Gu Qin Shan nodded and praised, "O great and omnipotent God, I do not want to become a demigod. I only have a small wish. You do not want to become a demigod?" "I do not." "Then state your wish," the figure of light said. "That girl just now, the one you took away, I want her to come back," Gu Qin Shan said. The figure of light spoke. "Pitiful mortal, you have been blinded by appearances and pursued the wrong thing. I must remind you This is a dangerous omen, Gu Qin Shan replied. She is an innocent life, and God is merciful to all living beings. I do not believe that God would refuse me to keep a life, the figure of light spoke. Mortal, she was only a weapon created for the sake of war, and now is the time for it to end mortal. Remember this well. Today is your most glorious day. There is no need for you to worry about such a small matter, Gu Qin Shan spoke in a low voice. No, this is not a small matter. She is a person, a pure and innocent girl. God, I am willing to exchange all of my glory for her, the figure of light spoke. Do you know what you will miss out on? If you're willing to become a demigod, you will be able to choose any of the 7 holy churches and become an envoy of the gods. With the blessing of the 7 gods, you will walk on the great path of becoming a true god mortal. Once you become a true god, your power will cause even heaven and earth to lose their splendor. Wherever you go, all living beings will have to crawl under your feet. So give up on your illusory thoughts and kneel in front of me. I shall grant you unparalleled power, Gu Qin Shan sighed and muttered. No matter how great the power is only a means, the reason why living beings desire. The power of a demigod or god isn't for the power itself. How laughable! Then why do you think living beings need power? The figure of light asked. Gu Qin Shan closed her eyes. The memories of her time with little dusk flashed in front of her eyes. About that robbery, she timidly said. You want to kill me? She cried. Once I use that method, I will have to painstakingly take care of you, she said worriedly. That's great. I finally have a companion, she excitedly exclaimed. I didn't have a companion before. So, this is also the first time I'm using this card. She lightly stroked the card. In my entire life, there are only 2 things, fighting and sleeping, she dejectedly said. I like flowers, and I like to travel between worlds, she said, full of longing. Revenge? What do you mean by revenge? She asked blankly. I don't know how to describe this feeling. She held the bowl tightly, wiping the corner of her eyes. I only want to help you become a demigod, she softly said. That's right. She only wants to help me become a demigod. That's all she wants. Gu Qin Shan suddenly opened her eyes and shouted, My only wish is for someone like her to live. Chapter 786. When Gu Qin Shan uttered those words, everyone in the infinite worlds was shocked. No one could have imagined that someone would go against the will of God and forcefully demand to change the fate of a weapon. Such stubbornness. Do you know what kind of sin you're going to face? The figure of light's tone had changed. Gu Qin Shan stared at the figure of light and replied, I only know that God's promises are true. The figure of light froze. This was the same question that Gu Qin Shan asked the figure of light before she expressed her wish. And the figure of light's answer was, God's words are true. Gu Qin Shan shrugged and silently chuckled. What is it, esteemed and supreme God? Are you going to go back on your words in front of billions of living beings? How dare you? The figure of light angrily shouted. Its immense divine power surged like a tsunami, giving off a pressure that could shake the entire 200 million world layers. Countless living beings couldn't help but tremble under its might. Everyone was terrified. A puny and weak being dared to go against a god and infuriate him. Such a thing had never happened before in the long river of history. Not even the holy Bibles or the age of old had such a thing. However, from ancient times until now, God had never gone back on his words. Could it be that God is going to go back on his words today? A different kind of emotion silently manifested in everyone's hearts. The figure of light raised its bone staff up high and pointed it at Gu Qin Shan. All living beings, you must pay close attention to what is about to happen. Next, everyone looked up. The figure of light spoke. Regardless of what kind of contributions you've made, if you go against a god, this will be your outcome. The entire labyrinth was filled with lush greenery and greenery. Everyone was bathed in the light of God. The figure of light also gave off an overwhelming light as it hovered in the air. Only the place where Gu Qin Shan stood had turned into a barren desert. The figure of light began to speak. This world is sealed with a heavy evil, and this person's thoughts are no different from that evil. I shall seal him and that evil together in this place. Saying so, the figure of light swung the bone staff at Gu Shan. A holy radiance appeared on Gu Shan. The figure of light spoke, "I will grant you power, just enough to fight against evil. Not one bit more, not one bit less. You will fight against evil in the seal as a servant of God. Once you give up on this struggle, you will immediately be consumed by evil. But even if you don't give up, the power bestowed upon you by the gods will weaken in 10 minutes. When the power God bestowed upon you gradually dissipates, you will realize how insignificant you are. That sealed evil will gnaw at your body and soul. At the moment of your death, you will thoroughly understand a certain truth. Only the power bestowed by God can help all living beings fight against evil. You will fall into deep regret and pain. You will find that what you missed will never come back." The figure of light shouted, "Sealed here and devoured by evil. This is how you will atone for your sins with your death." Following its will, the quicksand around Gu Shan's body began to move. Gu Shan couldn't leave this place, so he could only sink into the sand. His body slowly sank into the quicksand. The figure of light finally spoke. "Mortal, God is merciful. At the moment of your sins, I will allow you to repent. Come, tell your true feelings to all living beings. Let them remember the reason why you're going to die." Gu Shan sank into the sand. He didn't say anything, but before the quicksand reached his head, he raised his arm. In front of the billions of living beings of the 200 million worlds, he raised his middle finger at God. The infinite worlds were silent. Everyone stared at him in disbelief. He dared to do such a thing. This humiliating gesture of humanity was common across the infinite worlds. And Gu Shan silently raised his middle finger without moving. This seemed to be his final answer. He maintained this gesture until his entire body was submerged by the quicksand. Just as the quicksand was about to submerge his raised arm, his hand suddenly moved. He retracted his middle finger and gave a thumbs up with his entire hand facing downwards. His disdainful voice resounded from below the quicksand. "You can't even keep your words? You call yourself a god?" The quicksand submerged his arm and all of his fingers. The quicksand slowly calmed down. Everything was over. A mortal's defiance and disdain had ended. He was looking down on this god who went back on his words. This shocking scene was deeply engraved in everyone's hearts, unforgettable for the rest of their lives. The figure of light stopped for a long while. As for this person's punishment, he couldn't do anything else. According to the Holy Bible, gods never go back on their words, and he had already gone back on his words once in front of billions of living beings. If he were to punish Gu Shan any other way now, it would mean that he was going back on his words again. The omnipotent and omniscient God would never do such a thing. Time slowly passed. The figure of light finally spoke and declared, "The evil has been sealed. The sinner shall also suffer the consequences of his actions. The gods grant living beings the path to godhood. But at the same time, the gods shall also punish those who go against the will of the gods. You should all remember what happened today from today onwards. This world shall be the sealed land of sin. No one is allowed to enter. Those who disobey shall die." Saying so, the figure of light flew up, turned into countless sprites of light, and slowly disappeared into the void of space. The gods had left. In countless worlds, all living beings knelt down and paid their respects. On the other side of the infinite worlds, a cigarette was lit. Jang Young-ho took a deep puff and blew out a ring of smoke. "How impressive," he muttered to himself as he walked down from the ship. Someone on the ship shouted, "Hey, do you still want to take the ship or not?" "No need." Jang Young-ho waved his hand dismissively. "Then the money won't be refunded." The other party glared at him. The ship fee was a huge sum of money. There was no way he would spit it out. "Ah, all right. I wish you a pleasant journey," Jang Young-ho smiled. The other party stared closely at him, then looked around. This was a transit world, so it was extremely barren without any large-scale civilization markets. This person paid the money but didn't leave. "Why is that?" The captain of the ship muttered in a low voice. Crazy. He didn't think about it anymore and ordered the ship to depart. The ship left this world. Jang Young-ho stood still and put on a pair of sunglasses. There was no one around. His voice slowly turned cold. How arrogant. Treating my partner so arrogantly. Have you ever thought about your own fate? He threw a card out. Poof. A dark green lizard appeared. Littling Hao, what did you want? Do you need a fight? The lizard cautiously looked around. Relax, boss. I just have a small matter to ask you, Jang Young-ho said. Hearing that, the lizard calmed down and lazily spoke. If it's a small matter, why did you call me out? Very well. Ask away. Jang Young-ho breathed out a mouthful of smoke. Smoke filled the air. He tossed the cigarette on the ground and used his foot to press it down. I just want to ask, how were the fallen gods killed in history? He lowered his head and asked nonchalantly. The lizard stared at him for a long while before asking. You call that a small matter? Gu Qingshan sank into the desert. He felt himself entering a formation. But it wasn't a formation, but a barrier similar to a formation. Seems like I'm about to enter the seal. Sure enough, this so-called god wouldn't give little she back. It would rather go back on its word than give little she to me. It must have something up its sleeve. What does it need little she to do? While thinking, Gu Qingshan looked down. Underneath the quicksand, there was still quicksand, but there was enough space here to move around. Gu Qingshan lightly leapt forward and landed in the middle of the quicksand. This place was very spacious, about the same size as the black market. But there was nothing here. Up, down, left, right, front, back, and forth, there was still only sand. Gu Qingshan looked at himself. His body was still giving off the light of power left behind by the figure of light. However, this kind of power was quietly weakening. The figure of light hoped that in the process of fighting against evil, he would slowly lose his power, unable to resist the monster's attacks and die in a desperate struggle. Frankly speaking, this was a slow and cruel torture that would cause anyone to fall into despair. Gongzi, are you okay? Shanu's worried voice came from the void of space. I'm fine. I was just a bit impulsive. Sorry for making you worry, Gu Qingshan replied. Shanu, you have to keep an eye on me from now on. Against this kind of god that suddenly pops out, TSK, their methods are vicious, and I can't win against them. I have to be a bit more calm from now on, Gu Qingshan muttered. Understand, Gongzi, Shanu replied. Now let's take a look at the guy who's in prison here. Gu Qingshan crossed his arms and looked at the other side. Streaks of light shuttled back and forth, converging into a gigantic dark shadow in the void. Seal, the shadow spoke with a sorrowful and angry tone. Endless time, eternally sealed. Can you understand this pain? Gu Qingshan sighed. I sympathize with you. The dark shadow abruptly roared in anger. Despicable mortal, since you carry the kind of power, I will kill you and eat your flesh to resolve the hatred in my heart. Gu Qingshan pointed at the halo of divinity around her body and asked seriously, Are you talking about this? The dark shadow didn't answer. It scattered into hundreds of streaks of black light that attacked Gu Qingshan from every direction. Gu Qingshan still crossed her arms without any intention of defending. Hundreds of heavy streaks of black light came at her, surrounding Gu Qingshan in layers, preparing to unleash the final attack. Even when she was about to be dismembered, Gu Qingshan still didn't move. All the shadows abruptly stopped and stopped moving. Because Gu Qingshan said something. I said, do you want to leave? Chapter 787. Within the space vortex, 2 airships crashed into a barren world. The Holy Church of Death's holy officials and the Holy Church of Fate's knights were all gathered together, not allowed to move a single step. An unprecedentedly intense battle was still going on a few thousand meters away from them. Boom! The shockwave from the battle between the 2 men spread far away, turning into a violent gale that swept everyone within it. The leader of the Holy Church of Death loudly asked, When will your higher-ups arrive? The Holy Church of Fate's Knight helplessly replied, I'm not sure. We've already sent out an emergency message. They should be here soon. He looked at the Holy Church of Death and also asked, Where are your higher-ups? When will they arrive? The Holy Church of Death appeared bitter. Even if their higher-ups arrive, they won't be able to do anything. I'm afraid no one will be able to stop her this time. The two of them exchanged glances and couldn't help but feel worried. They were still fine when they parted, but then Lady Souchere ordered her ship to chase after the Holy Church of Death's ship. And then the battle erupted. At first, everyone attacked, but Anna and Souchere both shouted at them to stop. After that, as the two of them fought, through their words, everyone understood that this was a personal grudge between the two of them. No, it should be a very special kind of hostility. There was nothing they could do. Not only did they have no way to interfere, they didn't even have the words to persuade them. Not to mention that they were far weaker than them. They could only watch as they fought. A few thousand meters away, Anna and Souchere were still locked in combat. From time to time, the dusky radiance and the deathly black flames would collide with each other, erupting into world-destroying shockwaves. Seeing that they were in a stalemate, Souchere gritted her teeth and went all out. Not to be outdone, Anna also unleashed her full power. The battle slowly became more intense. Finally, Souchere's scepter was placed in front of Anna's neck, while Anna's scythe was also placed in front of Souchere's neck. At this point, something suddenly happened in the billions of worlds. The figure of light appeared. It began to praise the old man, and Gu Qin shone in front of all living beings in the 200 million worlds of the strife zones. Seeing the scene in the sky, Souchere and Anna finally stopped. They continued to watch until that moment. Gu Qin Shan sank into the quicksand and was sealed by the gods. The gods had only given him 10 minutes of power. After that, he would be devoured by evil and die a miserable death. The strange phenomenon in the sky gradually subsided, and the image of that world completely disappeared. It was all over. With the divinities personally taking action, Gu Qin Shan's fate has already been sealed. The two women stood rooted to the spot, motionless. Qin Shan. Souchere knelt on the ground as tears flowed down her cheeks. The next moment, she crashed into the edge of the dark scythe without hesitation. "What are you doing?" Anna scolded. She took a few steps back and raised her scythe high to prevent Souchere from touching the dark flames on the blade. Souchere shook her head and said with a bitter smile, "He is the only thing I care about in this world. Now that he has left, I have to find him." Anna was moved and looked at Souchere, unable to say anything. Souchere put her scepter away, took out a cold, gleaming dagger, and slashed it towards her own neck. As the dagger was about to cut through Souchere's neck, Anna acted. Key! The dagger was knocked away. Souchere was still crying as she looked up at Anna in surprise. "Didn't you want to kill me? Isn't this exactly what you wanted?" Souchere asked. Anna shouted, "Idiot! I can't be bothered to deal with a woman like you who wants to die so easily." Souchere smiled sorrowfully, but her expression was a bit warm. "Anna, I know that you seem cold and emotionless, but you're actually a very kind girl. Otherwise, you wouldn't have saved me back then." "Very well. The matter between us is now over. I'm going to accept my own fate. I hope you won't stop me," she said. Layers of mist appeared from her body, slowly forming a card in the void of space. This card depicted a holy angel. The angel was kneeling on one knee, holding a golden apple with both hands. Souchere said, "I will immediately activate this martyrdom card, using my death in exchange for an age of blessings. Anna, I will grant it to you. It will grant you true luck in many matters. This is my reward for your pure kindness. Anna, I'm going to find Qin Shan now. Farewell." While saying so, Souchere was about to touch the card. "Idiot!" Anna rushed forward, grabbed Souchere's neck, and dragged her several dozen meters away. Having lost Souchere's control, the martyrdom card hovering in the air slowly faded away. "Why do you care about my business?" Souchere coughed and loudly questioned. Anna opened her furious eyes wide and glared at Souchere. "I really can't stand you. He's not dead yet, but you want to die first." Souchere was still crying and shook her head. "There's only 10 minutes. The power and calculations of the divinities would never go wrong. Qin Shan would definitely be killed by the great evil that was sealed away within that time. I've read the historical records of the church. That thing that was sealed away is something that even the divinities are afraid of. Qing Shan wouldn't be able to escape. Anna sighed and spoke with a complicated expression. At least wait until I'm sure he's dead before you die, she continued. Crybaby, don't worry. No one will be able to stop you when the time comes. Su Shuai was stunned. Her eyes that were filled with despair suddenly had a glimmer of hope. What exactly do you mean? Su Shuai asked. Anna waved her hand dismissively and replied, It's only 10 minutes. 7 to 8 minutes have already passed. Let's just wait here and see. Su Shuai couldn't help but ask, How can we be sure that Qing Shan isn't dead? Anna answered, If you see me dead later, that means he's dead as well. Su Shuai froze again. I don't understand. Su Shuai slowly spoke. Her expression was full of confusion, no longer showing the determination to die like before. Anna explained, A few thousand years ago, our Medici clan became related to the god of death and obtained a divine artifact. What divine artifact? Su Shuai asked. The god of death's relic, the life substitution contract, Anna answered. Su Shuai thought for a bit. That sounds familiar. I think it was a very famous item back in the day. Wait a minute. I remember now. She stared at Anna. That's right. It's exactly as you think, Anna casually answered. She didn't avoid Su Shuai's gaze at all and continued. At the very last moment of the Frost Calamity, he became the Devil King, led the dead of Huang Quan to completely drive away the demons, then left our original world. What happened at the time? Su Shuai quickly asked. Anna replied, nonchalantly. I casually hung the life substitution contract on his neck. Su Shuai immediately answered. For those who have the life substitution contract, the god of death will prolong their life at the moment of their death. This miraculous ability isn't free. The law of death will absorb twice the life force of the last person who had the life substitution contract. Anna nodded. That's right. This was a life or death contract between me and him. If I died in front of you, he wouldn't be far from death. But if I'm fine, Su Shuai shouted. Then he's not dead either. She worriedly asked, but what if he took the life substitution contract off his neck, or gave it to someone else? The divine artifact is still with him, because I can feel that my life is still connected to his, Anna patiently explained. Furthermore, if he doesn't wear the life substitution contract and is killed by the sealed evil, then the life substitution contract will return to my hand. Su Shuai began to count the time. It's been 9 minutes, she said softly. Anna replied. 1 more minute. I'll be watching over you, Su Shuai said. She took out a card and threw it out. Bam! The card turned into an ancient clock that let out a clicking sound. The second hand moved 1 tick at a time. Anna and Su Shuai both looked at the clock. They went silent. This final minute became incredibly long. Su Shuai was becoming more and more nervous. As the second hand moved past half a circle, she couldn't help but grab Anna's hand tightly. Please, nothing will happen to you. Su Shuai's eyes were red, about to burst into tears again. Anna was also very nervous, but she forced herself to stay calm and clenched her teeth. I'll be fine. You have to trust Qing Shan. If the life substitution contract appears on her body, or if she turns into ash, it would mean that Gu Qing Shan is dead. The second hand continued to move forward 1 tick. Another tick. Su Shuai suddenly called out. Anna, what? Anna stared closely at the clock and asked, If Qing Shan isn't dead, you would have saved my life again just now, Su Shuai said. It's nothing. Don't think too much about it, Anna said. If Qing Shan isn't dead, I won't kill you again. I swear, Su Shuai said. Anna scoffed. You're clearly a crybaby, an idiot who only knows how to seek death, and you're always talking about killing people. Why would Qing Shan like you? I take back what I said just now, Su Shuai said. Didn't you swear? Anna asked. A woman's vow never counts, Su Shuai replied. The two of them bickered, but their voices were filled with tension. Even Anna's voice was trembling, because the final moment had arrived. The second hand moved again, a full circle. 10 minutes had passed. According to the divinity, Gu Qing Shan had already lost the protection of the divinity and would have to face that terrifying evil directly. Su Shuai couldn't help but hug Anna tightly. Don't die. I beg you. I'll do anything you want. Just don't die. She leaned on Anna's shoulder, crying as she begged. Anna let go of the scythe in her hand and lightly hugged Sue Cher. She didn't say a word, but her tears were already flowing. Click, click, click. The only sound left in the world was the sound of the second hand. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Every minute felt like a century. But after another 10 minutes, for Sue Cher and Anna, the long and torturous time slowly passed by. Sue Cher covered her mouth and asked while crying, "Is he still alive?" Chapter 788. Inside the ruins. 20 minutes had passed. If it really was a battle, it wouldn't have lasted for so long. Qing Shan must have thought of a way to coexist with that evil creature, Sue Cher concluded. Anna turned around to leave, angrily muttering, "Damn divinity, he almost killed my Qing Shan. I want to leave the Holy Church of Death. I want to find him right away." "Wait a minute," Sue Cher stopped her. "Don't stop me," Anna angrily shouted. Sue Cher wasn't angry and only spoke seriously. "That place has already been sealed by the divinities. How are you going to get there by yourself? How are you going to undo the seal? If a battle breaks out, how are you going to deal with it? Can you win against that evil creature?" Anna froze, then resolutely declared, "I don't care. I'm going to save him." Sue Cher pulled her back again and spoke with a firm tone. "You won't be able to save him like this. You might even draw the attention of the divinities and cause more trouble for him. Don't you even understand such a simple fact? Do you have a better solution?" Anna asked. Of course, Sue Cher replied. She pulled Anna in front of her and whispered, "If Qing Shan isn't dead, then with his abilities, he should be fine for now. You have to believe that he can do this," Anna nodded. With Gu Qing Shan's past actions, this was definitely trustworthy. Sue Cher sincerely said, "Truthfully, what we should really do is think of a way to eliminate that bastard who carried out the will of the 7 divinities." Anna froze. She asked, "You mean the figure of light?" Sue Cher softly replied, "That's right. It was the one who attacked Qing Shan. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't kill it. If the 7 divinities could be revived, I would really want to kill them all. Why don't we go save Qing Shan and instead kill it first?" Anna asked in confusion. Sue Cher patiently explained, "If we go save Qing Shan now, what would happen? Between you and me, who would have the ability to undo the seal of the divinities? If we were lucky enough to escape and get caught by the figure of light, all 3 of us would die. Even if we managed to escape its attention, will we be hunted down by the people of the 7 holy churches? In that case, death will be our final outcome." Sue Cher grabbed Anna's hand tightly and spoke without hesitation. "You can't leave the Holy Church of Death, and I won't leave the Holy Church of Fate. From now on, we need to borrow the power of the Holy Church to become even stronger, as well as gather information about the figure of light from within the Holy Church. It would be best if we can find the figure of light's weakness and kill it the next time it appears." Sue Cher looked at Anna. "I'm afraid it'll be difficult for me to do this alone. Are you willing to work with me?" Anna listened quietly and gradually fell in a deep thought. Under Sue Cher's hopeful gaze, she slowly nodded. The other side. Thousands of meters away from them, the 2 fleets of spaceships had already landed. The bigwigs from the 2 temples hurriedly jumped down from the spaceship. "Where are they?" a cardinal of the Holy Church of Death shouted. "Over there. They were fighting quite intensely just now. They seem to be quarreling right now," the knight who was stationed here hurriedly pointed. The bigwigs all looked in the direction he pointed. A few moments later, they froze, only to see Sue Cher and Anna standing side by side, seriously talking to each other as they slowly approached from afar. Perhaps they didn't even notice themselves, but their hands were still holding each other's hands. "They seem to be fine," the Holy Grand Knight of the Holy Church of Fate muttered. Inside the seal, the flowing sand was covered by the black tide of light. Countless sharp dark blades surrounded Gu Qing Shan, ready to unleash their final attack. But they all stopped around Gu Qing Shan's body without piercing him. Gu Qing Shan reached her hand out and lightly flicked one of the blades. "You won't be able to get me to take you out with that attitude," he spoke in the desolate language. In the blink of an eye, all the dark blades of light were reduced to nothingness. A tidal wave of darkness rose from the ground. A figure slowly stood up from the darkness, giving off a bright glow. Gu Shan observed the figure with a surprised expression, because the figure was the figure of light. They were exactly the same, without any flaws. The figure of light spoke in the desolate language in a low voice. "Can you feel it?" Gu Shan, "Death is approaching you," Gu Shan asked. "Really? You dared to go against the gods. The only outcome is death," the figure of light replied. Gu Shan calmly replied, "You are not it." "Why not?" the figure of light asked. "Because it won't trap itself here, in front of you," Gu Shan replied. The figure of light went silent. Like molten iron, its entire body plunged into the dark tide of light. Following that, another figure stood up from the black tide. Gu Shan. Another Gu Shan. This Gu Shan had his eyes closed, seemingly silently comprehending something. He softened his voice and slowly muttered. Such a calm and indifferent appearance, but filled with unimaginable anger and sorrow. "You can read my emotions?" Gu Shan asked. The other Gu Shan opened his eyes and stared straight at him. "You were angry because you couldn't stop the divinity's scheme. You were sad because the angel of condemnation left. You desperately wanted to become stronger. You wanted to kill the divinities." He spoke with satisfaction. Very well, I agree with your decision, as well as half of your emotions." "Which half?" Gu Shan asked. "The first half," the entity replied. Gu Shan thought for a bit, then asked, "I heard that Little Dusk is the only one who isn't afraid of you. So you don't agree with her staying?" "Of course. She made me feel helpless," Gu Shan mused. "You can sense my emotions, sense the strongest desire in my heart, and turn into an entity exactly like me." The entity laughed in a frenzy. "Aha! If it was that simple, why would the gods be afraid of me and seal me away?" "Then why?" Gu Shan asked. The entity looked at him and grinned. "I've never been afraid of others knowing my abilities, because it's useless even if they know. As long as any living being has a strong desire, I can follow that desire, enter their body, seal their soul, and take control of their body. What about the gods?" "Even the gods are no exception," Gu Shan quickly explained. "So that's how it is. All living beings have obsessions and desires, but Little Dusk was born pure without any obsessions or desires. So you can't do anything to her," Gu Shan continued. "If that's the case, your ability is very powerful, so you're invincible in a one-on-one situation. But if there were too many enemies, you wouldn't have a better way to deal with them. That's why you weren't able to defend the labyrinth," he then confirmed. "Based on this deduction, it doesn't explain the gods' fear of you. There must be some other reason why you were sealed away." Gu Shan stared at him for a long while before disappearing into the tide of darkness. A figure of light whose entire body gave off a dark glow appeared. The dark figure of light spoke with a deep and low voice. "Gu Shan, I know what happened outside just now. I also understand your killing intent toward the gods. That's exactly the same as me regarding the seal. I need to see your sincerity. Otherwise, no matter how much we talk here, if I can't get out in the end, everything would be a waste of effort." Gu Shan seriously listened. He didn't say a single word and simply grabbed a sword from the void of space. The sword was as clear as the water of autumn. The dark figure of light stared closely at the sword and spoke in surprise. "This is the Samsara sword." It was actually completed. Gu Shan wielded the sword, leapt up high, and lightly tapped the void of space. Golden light erupted. Countless dignified divine runes stacked on top of one another, all of them activated in an instant. These divine runes only manifested for a brief moment, but after confirming that there were no further attacks, they silently went back down. A single tap of the sword was enough to trigger the barrier of divinity to actively defend itself. It was clear how powerful this sword was. Or rather, this sword was specifically a sword that could cut through all laws, which was why the barrier of divinity reacted so strongly. "This is my sincerity," Gu Shan replied. He let go of the sword and let it hover by his side. The dark figure of light went silent. "After countless years, I've been trapped inside this seal since I was born. And now I can finally leave, he muttered in a low voice. Now isn't a good time to leave, Gu Shan said. The dark figure of light abruptly looked up and sternly questioned. Why? Gu Shan pointed above her head. Isn't it obvious? It's most likely still in the outside world. Silently observing this place, the dark figure of light instantly went silent. That's right, that guy replaced the divinity. It wasn't a normal guy. Using the 3 desolate divine armaments, it could seal itself away at any time. Gu Shan continued. Once it notices us leaving, it will immediately kill me. That way, when it seals you again, you won't be able to leave. The dark figure of light anxiously paced back and forth. After watching it for a while, Gu Shan said, You have to help me. I definitely can't be killed by it. Otherwise, everything will be over. The dark figure of light abruptly stopped. How do you want me to help you? Let's make 2 things clear first, Gu Shan said. First, that figure of light isn't one of the 7 demons, and it doesn't represent their will, right? The dark figure of light asked in return. What do you think is a god? A type of entity whose power has reached a level that mortals can't even comprehend, Gu Shan replied. The dark figure of light replied, More or less. According to our classification, powerful entities that can create living beings and worlds are called divinities. Then, what is the figure of light's identity? It is the same type of divinities. It can't create living beings or worlds, but its power is greater than that of divinities and also more dangerous. Why did you get sealed away by it just now? It should be afraid of you. It has already found the 3 desolate divine armaments. I have no way to deal with those 3. Gu Shan replied. Very well. Now that we know who the enemy is, let's move on to the most important question, he continued to ask. Before I enter the labyrinth, it gave me a coin that can only be used once to travel through time for 5 minutes. The dark figure of light scoffed in disdain. Gu Shan acted like she didn't hear it and continued to ask. Why did it give me such a thing to deal with you? Why not armor, weapons, spell scrolls, or other offensive or defensive items, but that coin? Gu Shan asked further. If the difference in power is too great, even if I could travel through time once in 5 minutes, I still won't be able to win. So why did it give me the coin that can be used to travel through time? Do you want to know? The dark figure of light asked. I have to know. This is the only point where it is wary and fearful of you. Otherwise, it wouldn't have given me such a precious thing, Gu Shan replied. Precious? The dark figure of light mocked. Indeed, it took the coin back in the end, so it must have treasured this coin a lot, Gu Shan commented. The dark figure of light went silent for a while, because it thought that this coin would be able to stop me from doing that thing. It finally said, What thing? Gu Shan asked. Space-time infiltration, a mystic skill that I can only use once in my life. In fact, the gods are afraid of me. Because of this, the dark figure of light replied. Space-time infiltration? Gu Shan was a bit confused. There was once a prophecy saying that this skill that I can only use once in my life will become a threat to their existence. The dark figure of light stared closely at Gu Shan. Its voice became tense and restrained. Now, I want to ask you a question. Very well, Gu Shan replied. If you were to travel back in time to a certain point in the past 7 days, would you be able to find a way to safely leave the seal? The dark figure of light asked. Gu Shan froze. He suddenly realized a possibility. So, then, no wonder the figure of light gave me that coin. This kind of travel, is there a limit? Gu Shan also became anxious. At this moment, he couldn't help but tremble. This was an emotion he had never felt before. Of course there is. You must do something that you have never done before in order to not affect space-time. Only then will you be able to return alive, the dark figure of light replied. In other words, I can't touch the things that have already happened. I can only do things that are related to myself. Yes, secretly go, secretly return. Everything that is related to you and that has already happened cannot be touched. Otherwise, the law of space-time will immediately erase you to calm the chaos of the timeline. If you have such a great ability, why don't you use it on yourself? Gu Shan asked. Because my entire life has been sealed away. I can't return to any point in time. In truth, The gods are most afraid of me allowing their opponents to return to the past, so I'm currently doing that, the dark figure of light replied. Understood. Gu Shan lowered his head and thought for a bit. I thought of a certain point in time, he muttered. Will allow you to safely leave the seal? The dark figure of light asked. Yes, it will definitely be able to, Gu Shan replied. The dark figure of light looked at him and silently spoke. Remember this well. If you dare to lie to me, I will make sure you suffer the worst torture for all eternity. Gu Shan reached his hand out. Trust me, I will take you out, the dark figure of light hesitantly spoke. I heard from the living beings on the surface that the promises of humans are the most untrustworthy, Gu Shan replied. You've seen my emotions and thoughts. You know what I want to do, so you only need to trust me. I also want to leave this place alive, the dark figure of light thought for a bit and took his hand. Remember, you must find a way to leave this place alive before you can return. He spoke with a serious tone. I only have a single extremely dangerous method. If I don't return, that means I died in the past. I can only apologize to you, Gu Shan said. You will definitely return, the dark figure of light replied. Gu Shan doubtfully asked. The dark figure of light replied. While being immersed in time, you will have 800 chances to redo at the point of your choice. You must find a way. Bigger 0 times. Gu Shan smiled. Don't underestimate me. In truth, I only need a single chance, Gu Shan firmly told him. The dark figure of light silently looked at him. Gu Shan hesitated briefly, then replied, At most 2 chances, the dark figure of light then continued. Whenever you miss the chance and are unable to redeem yourself, please kill yourself right away. That way you'll be able to return to this place, and I will send you back to that point in time again. Got it. When can I start? Right now. With a resounding sound, the tide of dark light surrounded Gu Shan. He slowly fell into the abyss of dark light, as if he was submerged in an endless ocean. This place was filled with darkness that couldn't be measured by time or space. Within the past 7 days, everything that Gu Shan experienced flashed through his mind. Time seemed to be flowing backward. Gu Shan stared at these scenes in a daze. Until the beginning of the 7 days. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and lost all signs of life. Opening his eyes, Gu Shan suddenly found himself still standing in the middle of the tide of darkness. Just now, he doubtfully asked. You died, the dark figure of light replied. Why? Because you exceeded the limit of 7 days. The law of time killed you. You now have 799 chances left. Sorry, I was too shocked. I admit I made a low-level mistake. I won't do it again, Gu Shan replied. The dark figure of light shook his head and asked, Continue. Gu Shan gritted his teeth. Boom. The tide of darkness once again surrounded him. Within the endless tide of darkness, he once again traveled back to the past. All of a sudden, a mountainous maw appeared from the darkness, sucking him and the other unknown entities around him in. Gu Shan's vision darkened. Opening his eyes, Gu Shan suddenly found himself still standing in the middle of the tide of darkness. Just now, he doubtfully asked, the monster in the fog of space-time could also be considered your deity, a certain kind of deity. It ate you, the dark figure of light silently replied. Does that count as a deity? Gu Shan was in disbelief. Living beings have always worshipped things that they can't understand. It has always been like that, the dark figure of light replied. I don't think so, Gu Shan replied. You have 798 chances left, the dark figure of light replied. Gu Shan clenched his teeth. Again. Got it, boom. The tide of darkness once again surrounded him. Within the endless abyss of darkness, he once again traveled back to the past. Scenes of the past flashed in front of his eyes. At a certain point, Gu Shan finally found the crucial moment he wanted to return to. He used all of his strength to ram into the scene. Bam! The scene broke into countless pieces. Complete darkness. Slowly, he heard sound and light. The sound of thunder continued to resound. The flashes of lightning illuminated the entire hall. Opening his eyes, Gu Shan found himself back in Bai Hua Palace. 100 Flowers Fairy was standing in front of him, sending her voice. Because of that, if you want to repair the Earth Sword, you must enter the primordial Heaven realm and search for the Earth Sword's twin swords. That sword is called Heaven, the Heaven Sword. Chapter 789. Baihua Palace. 100 Flowers Fairy was carefully telling Gu Shan. Shan, I originally didn't want to tell you this, but I know that for a sword cultivator, the sword is everything. Rather than letting you randomly search for it in the outside world, only to fail and the Earth Sword fall and disappear, it's better for me to tell you the truth. The Earth Sword has accompanied me for a very long time, and you're my personal disciple. I hope that both of you are well. Hearing these familiar words, Gu Shan suddenly had mixed feelings. If time continues to stop at this point, who knows how many despairing things will happen in the future. He resolutely said, "Sure, Fu. I want to repair the Earth Sword right now. Your cultivation is too low. You won't be able to survive in the primordial Heaven realm." 100 Flowers Fairy shook her head. "Sure, Fu. You've forgotten. I'm actually a returee," Gu Shan said. This was a phrase he came up with just now. 100 Flowers Fairy was a bit surprised. She looked at Gu Shan with a doubtful gaze. "But from your expression just now, you don't seem to know what a returnee is." "No, I'm just surprised. I didn't think Shifu would know about returnee," Gu Shan replied. "Then tell me, what is a returnee?" Xie Dao Ling asked. Gu Shan recalled what Chun Wang told her back in the Profession Affairs Department and answered, "A person who reincarnated from the world of gods and wants to help the infinite worlds that are facing the apocalypse and destruction. Such a person is called a returnee." Xie Dao Ling shook her head. "You're right, but your cultivation is too low. Even if you really are a returnee, it's not suitable for you to go to the primordial Heaven realm. Shan, you should improve your cultivation. Right now, the best way is to try your luck in the strife zones." Hearing this, Gu Shan felt his vision going dark. He opened his eyes again. He found himself still standing in the middle of the tide of darkness. "Just now?" he doubtfully asked. The dark figure of light replied, "You didn't trigger anything new at that point in time, so you ended up triggering something that had already happened, causing the timeline to become chaotic, so you were erased by the law of time." Gu Shan pondered. "What happened after that?" "Which is Shifu's decision to have me go to the strife zones," the dark figure of light replied. "Indeed, as soon as your Shifu decides to send you to the strife zones, the events that have already happened will occur one after another. You need to avoid reaching that point and try to enter another event that has never happened before. Only then will you not be erased by the law of time. By the way, you still have 797 chances." Gu Shan took a deep breath and said, "Understood. Send me there again." "All right." Boom! Amidst the violent sounds, the tide of darkness once again surrounded him. In the endless tide of darkness, Gu Shan traveled back in time. 100 Flowers Hall. Shan, I didn't want to tell you these things." 100 Flowers Fairy's voice resounded in his ears again. Gu Shan cut off 100 Flowers Fairy and said, "Sure, Fu. I have a secret to tell you." "What secret?" 100 Flowers Fairy asked. "In truth, I'm not just a returnee. I've also traveled back in time from the future," Gu Shan replied. 100 Flowers Fairy looked at him from top to bottom and asked, "You came from the future?" "Yes," Gu Shan replied. "Then why are you still so weak?" 100 Flowers Fairy doubtfully asked. Gu Shan was speechless. 100 Flowers Fairy pondered. "Shan, it's not that I don't trust you, but no matter what happens, strength is the most fundamental thing. I've decided to take you to the strife zones, first to increase your cultivation." Gu Shan died. He opened his eyes. He found that he was still standing in the tide of darkness. "There are 796 chances left. I remember someone once told me that I only needed 2 chances," the dark figure of light said. "You're telling me that? Don't you have anything else to do?" Gu Shan dejectedly asked. "There's nothing else to do inside the seal, except sleep," the dark figure of light sighed. Gu Shan thought of Little Dusk. He tapped his inventory bag and took out a lot of rations. "Learn how to eat. It'll be useful when we get out," Gu Shan said. The dark figure of light changed its attitude and spoke seriously. This seems to be an important survival skill. The people outside are eating almost every day. Gu Qingshan recalled what it did when it destroyed a small town and advised it. That's right, don't eat people anymore. Humans carry all sorts of diseases and impurities. They don't taste good either. You need to be like us and eat only vegetables. The dark figure of light thought for a bit, then nodded. If I can get out, I'm naturally willing to start a new life. He turned into Gu Qingshan's appearance, sat down in front of the food, and began to think about what to eat first. Send me there first. You can slowly choose what you want to eat. No one is going to take it from you, Gu Qingshan said. Got it. The dark light once again enveloped Gu Qingshan. Baihua Palace. Sure, Fu. I feel like I'm too weak. I should first increase my cultivation, Gu Qingshan said. 100 Flowers Fairy agreed. Strength is the foundation of everything, I think. Gu Qingshan immediately cut her off. Sure, Fu. I've decided to go to the strife zones to increase my strength. But before that, please tell me the way to go to the primordial heaven realm. That way, once I'm strong enough, I'll be able to go to the primordial heaven realm at any time. 100 Flowers Fairy muses. That's true. After you go to the strife zones, you'll have to stay there for a long time. It wouldn't be worth it for you to return to Shenwu World again. She took out something. This was a square formation plate forged from bronze. The four corners of the formation plate were carved with a kirin, a phoenix, a spirit tortoise, and a yellow dragon. 100 Flowers Fairy explained. To enter the primordial heaven realm, you need two things. The first is the Sex Primordial Heaven Realm Warp Formation, and the second is the Heavenly Palace's protective jade disc. The former will allow you to go to that world, while the latter will protect your life. But the Heavenly Palace's protective jade disc has already used up the last of its power and is completely destroyed. The only thing left is the Primordial Heaven Realm Warp Formation plate in my hand. I'll give it to you. Saying so, her jade-like hand moved. The Primordial Heaven Realm Warp Formation plate flew in front of Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan caught it. The formation plate was heavy, cold to the touch, and gave off an indescribable sense of vicissitudes. This was a formation plate passed down from the age of old. The runes engraved on it were so profound that even after looking at it for a while, Gu Qingshan still couldn't understand them. Then he understood. The formation on this plate was too profound. He couldn't understand it with his current level of formation knowledge. Sure enough, lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. Item, Primordial Heaven Realm Warp Formation Plate. Grade. Unique item. No rank. Doomsday Chronicles. This item has never appeared in known history. War God Skills. This item contains the Primordial Heaven Realm Warp Formation. If you want to comprehend the structure of this formation, you will need to pay 800,000 soul points. Description. By further improving your understanding of formation, you will need to reduce the soul points required to comprehend this formation. Gu Qingshan sighed. 800,000 soul points. Such a large number is almost enough to upgrade War God Skills. That's why studying formation isn't his top priority right now. Fortunately, I've finally obtained this formation plate. I can now head to the Primordial Heaven Realm to search for the Heaven Sword. Gu Qingshan put the formation plate away and sincerely said, Sure, Fu. Thank you for giving this to me. You're my disciple. There's no need to be so polite. Xie Dao Ling smiled and replied. Gu Qingshan also smiled, still full of gratitude. This is how Sure Fu is, treating her disciple so well that there's nothing to say. At this point, Xie Dao Ling continued. Qingshan, this time, I'll take you to the strife zones. That way, you'll be able to participate in the novice screening and receive the help of the life order. Hearing that, Gu Qingshan felt his vision going dark. He opened his eyes again. He found himself still standing in the middle of the tide of darkness. He looked at the figure of light. The other party had taken his appearance, holding a chicken drumstick in one hand and opening its mouth, wanting to take a bite to see what it tastes like. Their gazes met. Gu Qingshan. Chapter 790. Gu Qingshan stood within the black tide of light and silently thought for a while. You're so unwilling. Is it because you still haven't come up with a solution? The other him was crouching on the ground, learning how to use chopsticks to pick up food, and asked. Gu Shan asked, "Are you reading my emotions?" The other him pridefully replied, "Thoughts, desires, emotions. I can easily sense these things in the hearts of living beings. This is my natural ability," Gu Shan replied. "If you want to leave, don't read my thoughts so casually from now on." "All right," the other him replied. A few moments later, Gu Shan looked at the other him with a doubtful expression. The other him immediately replied, "Ichem, you're right. There really are 795 chances left. I'm sorry, I really won't read them next time." Gu Shan looked at him in disdain. "Send me there." "All right." The black tide of light abruptly rose, quickly enveloped him, and pushed him into the abyss of space-time. Baihua Palace. 100 Flowers, Fairy Muses. That's true. After you go to the Strife Zones, you'll be staying there for a long time. It's not worth it to make you return to Shenwu World again. She took out the Primordial Heaven Realm Warp Formation Plate and gave it to Gu Shan. Gu Shan put the formation plate away and sincerely spoke. "Sure, Fu. Thank you for giving this to me. You don't need to be so polite with me." "You and your disciple, Xie Dao Ling," smiled and replied. While she was about to tell her what she was thinking, time suddenly stopped at this very moment. 7 days later, the Strife Zones. Within the seal of drifting sand world, the dark figure of light abruptly stopped his chopsticks. He muttered in a low voice, "Not bad, to be able to create a new event so quickly and avoid the erasure of the law of time. Seems like there's hope this time." Baihua Palace. Gu Shan's figure suddenly moved. Ripples from the void of space radiated from his body like a soundless wave that spread throughout the entire Baihua Palace. Sha! Under the pull of spatial power, the smuggled Gu Shan from the future disappeared without a trace. Almost at the same time returned to normal. The Gu Shan who was in this timeline appeared. He continued his secret conversation with the 100 Flowers Fairy in the 100 Flowers Palace. Shan, I've decided to send you to the Strife Zones and fight with everything you have, 100 Flowers Fairy said. Will we be able to save the Earth's sword faster this way? Gu Shan asked. Indeed. Only by quickly increasing your cultivation will you be able to go to the primordial heaven realm and find the heaven sword to save it, 100 Flowers Fairy replied. Gu Shan allowed the void string to pull him through countless strange and unusual spaces. Using the void string that Miao gave him, he managed to travel through over 100 million world layers. Just now, he had activated the void string in advance and calculated the time. So when 100 Flowers Fairy was about to tell him about the Strife Zones, the void string abruptly activated. A few minutes later, Gu Shan brought the primordial heaven realm formation plate to the Justice Iron Fist Club. Just like that, he managed to avoid everything that happened in Shenwu World in this timeline. The Justice Iron Fist Club was completely silent. There wasn't a single person in the entire super-dimensional world. At this time, both Bali and Miao were in their homeworld. Their homeworld was currently being modified by the power of the divinities, so it was in a state of spatial turbulence that no one could enter or leave. It could be said that the club was the best place to stay, as it wouldn't affect anything else. Gu Shan took out the primordial heaven realm warp formation plate and felt a bit emotional. I can finally go find the heaven sword. He inserted the top quality spirit stones into the various grooves of the formation plate. Then he activated the formation plate. A light slowly lit up on the formation plate. Boom! The light formed a giant pillar of light that shot straight to the sky. A few moments later, the pillar of light slowly faded away. Gu Shan had already left with the formation plate. The primordial heaven realm. Above the illusory white mist, a figure suddenly appeared. Gu Shan. As soon as he appeared, he took out the formation plate that he carried with him and quickly moved his hands. Layers of light appeared on the formation plate. Various large-scale defensive formations were set up and arranged by him. After stuffing a pill into his mouth, Gu Shan took out the Chao Yin and Six Paths Great Mountain swords from the void of space. After that, he cautiously looked around. You really can't blame him for being too careful. The 100 Flowers Fairy once said that ever since the heaven realm was cut off from the cultivation world, The sect masters of the barren cloud heavenly palace could only rely on the protective jade disk to barely survive in the heavenly palace. It was obvious how dangerous the barren cloud heavenly palace was. As for leaving the heavenly palace to explore the outside world, that was even more impossible. According to the 100 Flowers Fairy's words, once you leave the heavenly palace, you'll lose your life. That was why as soon as Gu Qin Shan entered the primordial heaven realm, he used everything he had to survive. He carefully observed his surroundings. The sky was dark and gloomy. A large number of palaces sat on top of each other in the middle of a mountain range. And where Gu Qin Shan was standing was a lonely cloud. Gu Qin Shan looked down at his feet, then at the mountain range. He noticed that the mountain range was also being held up by a layer of clouds. Could it be that everything in the primordial heaven realm is actually floating in the air? Gu Qin Shan walked to the edge of the cloud and looked down. Below him was a vast, solid ground. Seeing the ground, Gu Qin Shan felt a bit more assured. This was different from the suspended world. The realm demon below the suspended world could devour anyone at any time. Gu Qin Shan carefully observed. The ground was completely barren, without a single living being. The entire world was silent, as if it had been immersed in a desert of time for billions of years. Gu Qin Shan felt a bit emotional. What exactly happened in the age of old that caused a world like this to be completely empty? He then looked at the palaces on top of the mountain range. According to Shifu's memories, that should be the main palace of Barren Cloud Heavenly Palace. It was quite far away from where he was. There's no other way. Every teleportation of the formation is random. It can only guarantee that the person being teleported will be within the range of Barren Cloud Heavenly Palace, but there's no telling where exactly they'll be teleported to. Gu Qin Shan sensed around and didn't notice any danger. But after going through Tribulation Realm, my spirit's sense isn't that useful anymore. If leaving the Heavenly Palace will be more dangerous, then for the sake of safety, I'll go to the Heavenly Palace to collect some information first. After making up his mind, Gu Qin Shan started moving. His figure flashed again and again, and he quickly ran out. The wind was howling by his ears. Other than the path made of clouds, there was nothing else around him. Gu Qin Shan was becoming more and more doubtful. There's not even a single person here. Where would there be any danger? After flying for a while, he finally saw a rock about 3 people tall, silently standing in the middle of the clouds. Gu Qin Shan stopped and looked at the rock, only to see 2 large words written in the language of the cultivation world: frowny face, feed garden. Feed garden? Gu Qin Shan was even more doubtful. In the cultivation world, a feed garden is a place to raise spirit beasts. As Gu Qin Shan looked around, he saw that the entire sky above the clouds was empty. There were no buildings or anything else. Just 2 large words written on a rock can be used as a place to raise spirit beasts? What exactly does that mean? A second later, the rock seemed to have sensed his presence and gave off a flash of light. Gu Qin Shan took a step back and prepared to defend himself. Everything here is so shrouded in mystery that it's hard to understand. A few moments later, nothing happened. Gu Qin Shan slowly lowered his swords and shook his head. He was about to move again. Just as he flew a few dozen feet away, he suddenly stopped and looked up into the distance. "What is that?" he muttered. At the end of the horizon, a band of light appeared. The band of light was giving off a faint yellow glow, surrounded by clouds and mist, making it impossible to see what it really was. Slowly, the band of light started to fly towards Gu Qin Shan. As the band of light got closer, the sky was visibly darkening. Night fell. At once, supernatural phenomena manifested. Boom! The sound of thunder exploded. Torrential rain poured down. The intense wind howled without stopping. Gu Qin Shan stood in the middle of the storm and looked down. From afar, he could see the band of light again. The band of light appeared between the clouds, still very far away from Gu Qin Shan. But with his inner sight and eyesight, Gu Qin Shan was able to recognize that entity. It wasn't a band of light. It was a dragon, a yellow dragon. In the sky, the yellow dragon also sensed Gu Qin Shan's presence. It lowered its head and looked at Gu Shan. In the torrential rain, one man, one dragon, silently observed each other. Gu Shan's vision suddenly went dark. He opened his eyes. He found himself back in the middle of the tide of darkness. "I'm dead," he asked. "Indeed, you have 794 more chances," the dark figure of light replied. The dark figure of light was holding a pill in his hand, carefully sniffing it with its nose. Gu Shan was surprised. "That can't be right. There was clearly nothing around me just now. Even that dragon was still far away in the sky. How did I die?" The dark figure of light replied. "You still don't understand?" "I don't," Gu Shan replied. Chapter 791. Civilization, Tower World. Holy Church of Knowledge. At this time, the grand welcoming ceremony had ended, and the higher-ups had all left. Some attendants and believers were cleaning up the mess. Although it was complicated and busy, everyone's faces were filled with joy. It was not until midnight that the disciples finally cleaned up the inside and outside of the temple. Then, under the direction of a bishop, everyone started to set up the assessment venue. It couldn't be helped. This had to be done immediately. It would be too late if it was too late. From tomorrow onwards, the entrance of the temple would be filled with people applying to join the church. There will be no doubt about it. During the welcoming ceremony during the day, the Queen of Thorns publicly announced that she would donate a large sum of wealth to the Temple of Light. This was a fortune that could shake the entire strife zones. Even the Pope, who had always been serious and solemn, looked decades younger. In retrospect, today was indeed a special day. In the morning, the gods descended. In front of every living being in the strife zones, the gods sealed away a disobedient. At the beginning of the afternoon celebration, Queen Thorns immediately made an unprecedented donation. In fact, compared to the appearance of the gods, this donation had a greater impact on the temple. At least for the next 30 years, every member of the Holy Church of Knowledge wouldn't have to worry about their expenses. Furthermore, every member of the Holy Church of Knowledge would receive a special grant from the Bramblebird Kingdom, the title of Honorary Knight of the Bramblebird Kingdom. Within the 200 million world layers of the strife zones, an Honorary Knight of the Bramblebird Kingdom can withdraw 10,000 coins numbered 500 from any world. This amount of money was enough for one person to live comfortably for the rest of his life. Moreover, due to the dignity of the Divine Hall, no one dared to lay their hands on the members of the clergy to seize this wealth. No one dared to openly confront the believers of the gods. Therefore, this sum of money was secure and could not be taken away. Therefore, it was not a taboo to say that the Queen of Thorns' donation ceremony had long surpassed the descent of gods, becoming headline news that all 200 million worlds would revere and praise in one fell swoop. Did this offend the gods? Of course not. Her Majesty was helping the Church of God develop its power. Tomorrow, the Pope would confer the title of Honorary Bishop upon the Queen, deep within the Holy Church of Knowledge. The Pope's reception room. Although it was a little late, there was still a secret negotiation going on here. Only the Pope, the Queen, and a general beside the Queen were present. The Pope smiled and said, "Your Majesty Lola, the knowledge and secrets of the infinite worlds are endless. Why do you look so anxious?" "Because I'm a child. I'm always eager to get what I want." "You can also say that I'm impatient," Lola said. As she spoke, Lola stretched out her hand and groped about in the void. She stretched out her hand and grabbed something out of it. It was a pair of iron chain gauntlets that emitted a gentle, dark, golden light. Epic ranked knights, chain gauntlets? My luck is pretty good this time," Lola said in surprise and threw the gloves behind her. Ilya hurriedly caught the gloves. "Your Majesty, the treasury is full. What do you think about this glove?" she asked. "Didn't we donate a lot of things to the Holy Church of Knowledge?" Lola was surprised. "Those are some piled up outside the treasury." "Oh." Lola exchanged glances with her. "So they only cleaned up some trash outside the treasury. This pair of gauntlets is an epic-grade treasure, so they can't just casually be thrown into a pile of trash." "Ilya, take these gloves," Lola said. Ilya showed the pair of glowing white gauze gloves to Lola, Your Majesty, have you forgotten? Last time, you got a pair of holy apostle gloves. I'm still wearing them. Lola was troubled. Huh. What do I do now, right? Your Holiness, I'll donate another pair of epic grade knight gloves. She took the gauntlets back and casually threw them on the table. The Pope's eyelids twitched a bit as he watched. Lola, Your Majesty, your generosity has earned the gratitude of the entire Holy Church. The Pope organized his words. Lola waved her hand dismissively, her expression turning serious. Your Holiness, I'll be frank with you. I need to know some secret knowledge. Your Majesty, tomorrow, I will grant you the title of honorary cardinal. You will be able to browse through the accumulated knowledge of all civilizations within the Holy Church of Knowledge. No, Your Holiness, do you really think that I'm spending so much effort just to learn the knowledge of the myriad civilizations? What do you mean, Your Holiness? The Pope asked. I want to know the secrets of the coins, Lola replied. The Pope's frown loosened and smiled. That's easy. Although the miraculous functions of many of the coins are hidden, we've pretty much understood the first 700 coins, Lola replied. That's not what I want to know. The Pope maintained a smile and nodded. Your Majesty, I didn't expect you to desire the truth and secrets to be so much, but as the honorary cardinal of our Holy Church of Knowledge, you truly deserve it. The last 301 coins were forged by the 4 righteous gods. I didn't expect Your Holiness to desire to know the secrets of these coins. The Pope spoke in a pleased tone. Searching for the secrets of knowledge, searching for the origin of civilization, understanding the truth of the God's creation from the coins, as long as Your Holiness can maintain such a thirst for knowledge. Sooner or later, I'll be able to remove the word honorary from your title, Lola casually replied. Your Holiness misunderstands. I'm actually not interested in these few hundred coins. The Pope froze. He suddenly found that he couldn't see through the little girl in front of him. The Pope tried asking. Then, Your Holiness means Lola's voice became softer and lowered. Your Holiness, I want to know the secrets of the last 3 coins. The smile on the Pope's face disappeared, and his voice sounded a little dry. Only one of the last 3 coins has been forged. Your Majesty, it may be difficult for you to track them down, but the Holy See is willing to help you find them. Lola replied. You're wrong. I don't need the Holy Church's help. I have my ways to find the last 3 coins. She looked at the Pope and saw some sort of fear in his eyes. Your Holiness, you've probably guessed it. I know about that matter, Lola said. What is it? The Pope asked. The great tree told me that it's something that can bring the dead back to life, something that can reverse the flow of all things. But it doesn't know the specifics. The Pope abruptly stood up and quickly said, It's getting late, Your Majesty. Please return. Lola sat still and slowly spoke. Your Holiness, I remember that the things I donated haven't even arrived yet. Are you going to chase me away just like that? The Pope coldly replied, Your Holiness, the Holy Church of Knowledge doesn't need any of your donations, and the Holy Church of Knowledge will definitely not reveal that taboo matter to anyone, including yourself. He opened the door and said, Please leave. Your Holiness, our meeting is over. Please do not return to the Holy Church of Knowledge from now on. Ilya worriedly looked at Lola and silently stepped in front of her. It's fine, Ilya. Step aside. I still have something to tell the Pope, Lola said. She opened her backpack, took out a black box from it, and lightly placed it on the table. Please take a look at this, Lola said. She opened the box, then closed it again. At this moment, the Pope saw a black finger bone silently lying inside the box. As soon as the box was closed, a pale white flame rose from the finger bone and flew out of the box, hovering in the air like mist, not dispersing for a long time. The Pope stared at the white flame and muttered blankly. My God, he couldn't help but close the door. Your Holiness, do you feel it? Lola softly asked. As the Pope stared at the flame, beads of cold sweat slowly formed on his forehead. You devil, he murmured. No, this is only a transaction. Your Holiness, Lola replied. That is disrespect to God, the Pope replied. How was that disrespect to God? This finger bone is not a descendant of the 4 pillar gods, nor is it a corpse of the 7 demons. It came from billions of years ago, belonging to an unknown god who had fallen. Lola smiled. I believe that this does not offend the 7 demons, so I intend to give it to you as a gift, the finger bone of a god. The finger bone of an unknown god. It is different from the 7 known paths to divinity, so it must contain a never-before-seen secret to divinity. The Pope stared closely at the box and gulped. He took out a white handkerchief and wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Should I kill him now? He looked at the little girl in front of him. The little girl smiled. Green branches and leaves sprouted from her back, lightly embracing her. The St. Bramble tree. Damn it. This is an existence comparable to God. It's protecting me. The Pope immediately gave up. He tried his best to suppress his emotions and spoke in a low voice. Your Holiness Lola, what exactly do you want? Tell me the secret. The Holy Church of Knowledge's donation remains the same. The thing inside this box is my personal gift to you, or you can choose not to tell me the secret, but I'm sure someone else will know. Lola also lowered her voice. Even if you don't tell me, someone else will eventually tell me the secret in order to obtain this finger bone. What do you think? The Pope went silent for a minute. Then he smiled. Shaking his head, the Pope spoke emotionally. Your Holiness Lola, welcome to becoming the official cardinal of the Holy Church of Knowledge. Your Holiness, the holy tree is here. Please tell me the secret without lying. Then you may take this box away. Your Holiness, listen carefully. I will only say it once, please. It was the era when the divinities were at their most powerful. The final 3 coins were forged by 33 gods from the age of old. The gods did everything in their power to complete this greatest achievement, creating a power that surpassed all the other gods within the 3 coins. Each of the 3 coins holds a portion of that power. You must gather them all, then use the 3 unique entities they represent to activate them in order to achieve that. Can that really be achieved? Lola clenched her fist tightly as her breathing became hurried. Chapter 792. Gu Qingshan was standing in the middle of the tide of darkness. He was carefully observing the primordial heaven realm warp formation plate in his hand. On the formation plate, the Kirin, the Phoenix, the Spirit Tortoise, and the Yellow Dragon each took a corner and looked around. Just now, after being killed by the Yellow Dragon in a single glance, Gu Qingshan decided to change his route again. After a long flight, he finally reached the mountain. At the foot of the mountain was a pavilion. The Mountain Guardian Pavilion. In a mountain guarding pavilion, a Qilin was sleeping soundly. Noticing someone approaching, the Kirin lazily opened its eyes and looked at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan's vision went dark. Returning to the tide of darkness, Gu Qingshan began to think of a way to enter Barren Cloud Heavenly Palace. He noticed that the first 2 times he walked on the surface of the clouds, he alerted the Yellow Dragon and Kirin. Then how about flying over? Everything started over again. This time, Gu Qingshan didn't walk on the clouds. He took to the air and turned into a streak of light as he flew towards the palace on the faraway mountain. After passing through the feeding garden and the Mountain Guardian Pavilion, Gu Qingshan was about to reach the top of the mountain. At this point, he suddenly noticed a gigantic parasol tree in the middle of the mountain. A large bird, covered in crimson feathers, was sitting on top of the parasol tree. As Gu Qingshan flew over, the bird couldn't help but crane its neck to look at Gu Qingshan. This bird was exactly the same as the phoenix carved on the primordial heaven realm warp formation plate. It wasn't a normal bird, it was a phoenix. Gu Qingshan sighed helplessly. Then his vision went dark. Gu Qingshan returned to the tide of darkness. What's the matter? Are things not going well? The dark figure of light asked. The dark figure of light was holding a few jade tags in his hand, reading through some interesting things about the cultivation world. It's not going well, but I'll think of a way, Gu Qingshan replied. That's good. I can only use this skill once in my life. Make sure to cherish it, the dark figure of light said. I know. Of course I will treasure it, Gu Qingshan said. Playing with the formation plate, he silently thought about how to enter Barren Cloud Heavenly Palace. This was indeed a difficult problem. If he couldn't even take a look, how could he enter the Heavenly Palace? Even if he transformed into a bird, he wouldn't be able to withstand the gaze of a phoenix. The Yellow Dragon was easy to pass, but the Qilin was guarding the mountain gate, and the phoenix was guarding the group of palaces at the peak of the mountain. Apart from them, there was also a spirit tortoise hiding somewhere. Against such an unimaginably powerful spirit beast, even if he had 800 chances, he still wouldn't be able to overcome it. Was there any way to avoid them? Guqing Shan fell into deep thought. Still haven't come up with a solution? The dark figure of light asked. Let's try again. Take me there, Guqing Shan said. Very well, the dark figure of light replied. Boom! The tide of darkness once again engulfed Guqing Shan. After talking with the 100 Flowers Fairy, he used the Void String to arrive at the Justice Iron Fist Club and activated the Primordial Heaven Realm teleportation circle. Guqing Shan once again returned to the Primordial Heaven Realm. This time, he walked up to the edge of the clouds and looked down. Below the gloomy sky was a vast expanse of land. He wasn't going to travel through the clouds this time. Guqing Shan intended to fly straight down from the clouds, avoiding the Feeding Garden and the Mountain Guardian Pavilion, all the way to the bottom of the Barren Cloud Heavenly Palace. As long as the mountain is a normal mountain, I can use my swords to open a path from the bottom of the mountain. This way, I'll be able to perfectly avoid the Phoenix and enter the Heavenly Palace from the bottom of the mountain. Guqing Shan thought about it over and over again. This is a good idea. However, I'll have to be a bit more discreet when I open the mountain. Instead, I'll turn into a pangolin-like animal and slowly dig a path into the mountain. That's it. Guqing Shan jumped down from the clouds. He continued to descend until he almost reached the ground before slowly stopping. The ground was barren and silent. For the sake of safety, Guqing Shan didn't even try to touch the ground, nor did he think about moving forward on the ground. He flew towards the faraway mountain. Looking up from below the clouds, the scenery was a bit different. The clouds in other places were very thin and indistinct, but the clouds at the foot of the mountain were a little too thick. But if the clouds weren't so thick, they wouldn't be able to support a mountain and a palace. Guqing Shan pondered and sped up. He flew as fast as he could through the sky and safely reached the bottom of the mountain. The yellow dragon, Kirin, and Phoenix couldn't pay attention to this place. Guqing Shan released his inner sight to scan the clouds. He couldn't sense anything. Seems like there's still quite a bit of distance between this place and the bottom of the mountain. Guqing Shan took a deep breath and flew as fast as he could towards the thick layer of clouds. Clang! An earth-shattering sound of impact. Guqing Shan was knocked back by the clouds. He clutched his forehead and fell down for a while before he slowly stopped. The impact was too painful. Guqing Shan gritted his teeth and endured for a while before the pain subsided a bit. He looked up. Thick clouds shrouded everything in the sky. What kind of clouds are these? Why can't even my inner sight see what's inside? And also, what kind of thing did I just hit my head on? Guqing Shan couldn't help but form a wind hand seal. This was the most basic of spells. The only thing it could do was summon wind spirits. As his spirit energy flowed, the hand seal was completed. The wind picked up. The wind howled and blew towards the thick clouds. Guqing Shan was now a virtualized realm cultivator, so any spell he used would be much more powerful than before. The entire cloud layer where the mountain was located was shrouded in the gale. The clouds were quickly blown away by the wind, revealing the scene inside. Guqing Shan looked up at the cloud layer in shock, slowly losing the desire to talk. He finally knew what he had bumped into. The spirit tortoise, the yellow dragon, Kirin, and even the phoenix weren't even 1/10 of its size. This gigantic spirit tortoise was carrying a mountain on its back, slowly flying through the sky. But its eyes were still closed, as if it was sleeping. Guqing Shan's attack didn't even make it feel anything. The world was silent. Time slowly passed. Guqing Shan silently hovered in the sky, staring at the spirit tortoise. Whenever the spirit tortoise breathed, clouds would come out from its nostrils and slowly fill the air. The clouds slowly formed into a layer of clouds that covered part of the spirit tortoise's body. Guqing Shan closed his eyes and silently sensed it. He could sense an extremely tremendous life force from the spirit turtle. The life force was like an endless, roaring fire. In fact, from Guqing Shan's spirit sense, his virtualized realm self was like a firefly, while the spirit tortoise's vitality was like the sun itself. This has never happened before. Wait a minute. Gu Shan abruptly opened his eyes and muttered, "This can't be right. The yellow dragon, Kirin, and Phoenix I saw before, although they were also powerful, why didn't they give me this feeling?" Gu Shan tried to recall what it was like when he saw the other 3 ancient spirit beasts. Something really didn't seem right. For the 3 ancient spirit beasts, an ant like me shouldn't have posed any threat. But they still killed me. There was no communication, not a single sound. As if they were following the rules, they coldly and mechanically killed me. But the spirit tortoise was different. The spirit tortoise was peacefully sleeping. Spirit beasts of their level should be able to easily sense a lot of things with their innate spirit sense. The spirit tortoise didn't sense any threat from Gu Shan. It was still able to sleep peacefully. With that in mind, Gu Shan couldn't help but feel that something was wrong with the other 3 spirit beasts. All of a sudden, a voice resounded in his mind. "You want to enter the barren cloud heavenly palace? Brat, show me your jade disc." Gu Shan abruptly looked up. At some unknown point, the spirit tortoise had woken up. It was staring at Gu Shan. Gu Shan smiled bitterly. A few moments later, "My vision didn't darken. I didn't die. That's right, I didn't die this time." As he hovered in the air, he slowly realized what just happened. An entity of the spirit tortoise's level would definitely be able to perfectly control its power. When it doesn't want to kill someone, it would definitely be able to restrain its power. Gu Shan regained his senses and clasped his fist towards the spirit tortoise. "The Heavenly Palace Jade Disc has already been broken. Please do me a favor." The spirit tortoise immediately refused. "No Jade Disc? Then you can't enter the Heavenly Palace." The spirit tortoise stared at him sympathetically, then said, "Fine, if you can't enter the Heavenly Palace, only death awaits you. I'll send you off." Chapter 793. He opened his eyes. Gu Shan found himself inside the black tide of light again. "So I'm dead." Gu Shan fell into thought. Just now, the spirit tortoise said that not entering the heavenly palace means death. Because of this, it had killed him out of sympathy. Is it really that hard to survive outside the heavenly palace? But the Jade Disc is already destroyed. I can't even use War God skills to replicate the method of creating it. What should I do now? The dark figure of light spoke up. "You still have 700. Gu Shan cut him off. "I don't want to know how many more times I have. All right, do as you wish." Saying so, the dark figure of light continued to munch on a chicken drumstick. Gu Shan picked up a gourd of liquor from the ground, opened the cork, and gulped it down in one gulp. The dark figure of light looked at him and commented, "Your taste is quite unique." "Why do you say that?" Gu Shan asked. "That thing you just drank was too spicy. It didn't taste good at all," the dark figure of light replied. "Once you go out and experience a few more things, you'll come to like its taste," Gu Shan replied. He put the gourd of liquor back on the ground, took a deep breath, and shouted, "Again." "Very well," the dark figure of light replied. The dark figure of light surged forward like a tidal wave, once again enveloping him into the abyss of time. Baihua Palace fetched the formation plate. Justice Iron Fist Club transported him. Once again arrived at the primordial heaven realm. Gu Shan stood on top of the clouds, carefully rethinking the entire process. He walked to the edge of the clouds, leapt up, and rode the wind to fly. It wasn't until he reached the bottom of the mountain, right in front of the thick layer of clouds, that Gu Shan stopped. He formed a wind hand seal again. The intense wind blew the clouds away, revealing the spirit tortoise's mountain-sized body. As soon as the clouds scattered, the spirit tortoise had already sensed it. It slowly opened its eyes. Gu Shan clasped his fist. "Senior, I am the current sect master of the Barren Cloud Heavenly Palace. Please take me into the Heavenly Palace." The spirit tortoise evaluated him. "Do you have the Heavenly Palace Jade Disc?" Gu Shan replied, "The Heavenly Palace Jade Disc has been passed down to my generation, so it's already completely broken, but I can prove my identity." He performed Heaven's Fall, ground shrink, followed by unbreakable mountain. These were both divine skills from the Barren Cloud Palace. After that, Gu Shan tapped his inventory bag and took out a rectangular jade box. He carefully opened the jade box and showed the half-broken earth sword to the spirit tortoise. The spirit tortoise stared closely at the earth sword and muttered, "I knew it was heavily wounded, but I didn't think it was already broken." That's right. The reason I came to the primordial heaven realm this time was to find the heaven sword. I heard that only the heaven sword can help it recover. The spirit tortoise looked at Gu Shan with a complicated look. Although your cultivation is higher than those who came before, you are still too weak. Without the jade disc, you won't be able to survive here with your current strength. Gu Shan clasped his fist. "Please show me the way, senior. I must save the earth sword," the spirit tortoise replied. "You should return. It's already not easy for a virtualized realm cultivator like you to appear in the lower realms. Don't die here so easily." Gu Shan clasped his fist again and sincerely said, "With the invasion of the demons, the fall of the divinities, the awakening of the ancient evils, and the destruction of billions of worlds, this humble one would only be waiting for death if I return, so I might as well die here. Please show me the way, senior. This humble one will save the earth sword, even if I have to go through fire and water." The spirit tortoise sighed. Difficult, difficult, difficult. Although you are sincere, without the jade disc, you won't be able to survive here, let alone find the heaven sword. Gu Shan doubtfully asked, "Do I really need the jade disc to survive in the heaven realm?" The spirit tortoise answered, "With the jade disc, you will be able to survive in the heavenly palace, at least with your life intact." Gu Shan asked, "Is there no other way to survive?" The spirit tortoise answered, "As a spirit beast, I still have to rely on my innate thaumaturgy to survive until now. The yellow dragon, vermilion bird, and Kirin have all fallen, leaving only a sliver of their souls. Your chances of survival are even slimmer. Even if I were to risk my life to help you, it would be a waste of effort." Gu Shan doubtfully asked, "But I'm still alive right now." The spirit tortoise went silent for a few moments, then spoke. Its coming, it glanced at Gu Shan with a look of pity, then retracted its head and 4 claws into the giant turtle shell. The spirit tortoise's voice resounded in Gu Shan's mind. "If you can survive for more than 2 hours, you will have a chance to survive in the wild. At that time, come find me again. I will take you to steal the jade disc." After saying so, the spirit tortoise went silent. Gu Shan was surprised. Survive for more than 2 hours? What exactly is going to happen now? Before he could think about it, an unknown fluctuation suddenly swept across the entire world. Gu Shan felt an irresistible spirit pressure descending from above. He was pressed down from the sky to the ground by this immense spirit pressure, unable to move. Gu Shan moved his body a bit. He wasn't hurt at all. This spirit pressure was both gentle and firm, as long as it sent him down to the ground. Gu Shan sighed helplessly. According to Shifu, the outside of the barren cloud heavenly palace is 10,000 times more dangerous. The spirit tortoise also said that it would be useless even if it risked its life to help me. Only if I can survive for more than 2 hours would I be worthy of its help. But aren't I still standing in the middle of the wilderness? Perhaps after hundreds of millions of years, those dangerous things had already died? While Gu Shan was thinking that, his vision suddenly blurred. The barren land disappeared. He found himself standing in the middle of a large group of people. Gu Shan's expression didn't change as he silently looked around, only to see that all the cultivators around him were fully armored. Each of them had a serious expression on their faces. Gu Shan silently sensed their spirit energy waves, feeling that even the weakest among them was stronger than Shifu. The strength of these people is too terrifying. Could it be an illusion? No, this is much more realistic than an illusion. Gu Shan silently sensed his surroundings. He looked afar. As far as the eye could see, there were cultivators clad in battle armor everywhere. They drew their weapons, followed by their spirit beasts, standing in neat combat formations. The entire land was filled with cultivators. In the sky, airships were flying back and forth. The ones that were moving slowly were the large-scale war fortresses hovering above the cultivators' formations. The world was silent. Only the sound of the wind could be heard. All the cultivators were gathering their strength, as if waiting for something. "Get ready!" Someone shouted. "What?" Gu Shan couldn't help but ask. The voice from before resounded again. "Everyone charge!" All the cultivators shouted in unison. "Charge!" But they couldn't do it in time. Far away in the sky, a streak of white light shot towards Gu Shan's direction. Boom! The white light exploded in the middle of the formation. The entire ground was blown up by the immense force. The cultivators on Gu Shan's side were instantly decimated by the white light. Before Gu Shan could react, he was only affected by the shock wave for a brief moment before he was sent flying into the sky. Before he died, he saw a giant head full of eyes slowly looking down from the sky. Darkness descended. When he opened his eyes again, Gu Shan found himself standing in the middle of the tide of darkness. "You've returned from the dead?" The dark figure of light stood on one side and looked at him. Something strange happened. Gu Shan sighed. He suddenly recalled something and asked, "Wait a minute, you can see how I die every time?" "Yes," the dark figure of light replied. "Then just now, you were sent to the age of old by some sort of power, almost unable to return, that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.